Good evening, everyone. I am Councillor Laura Binks, the Mayor of Strathbogie Shire Council. I would like to welcome you to our Ordinary Council meeting of the 16th of May 2023. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the places we live, work and play. We recognise and respect the enduring relationship they have with their lands and waters, and we pay respects to elders past, present and future. Today we're meeting on the lands of the Taungurung people of the Eastern Kulin Nation, whose sovereignty here has never been ceded. We welcome people to our public gallery and also those viewing this meeting through our live stream via our website. This meeting is being held in accordance with Strathbogie Shire's governance rules. If we have technical difficulties during today's meeting, which means we are unable to stream the proceedings to the public live, we will continue with the meeting given the public gallery is open. Voting by councillors at tonight's meeting will be held by a show of hands. If a councillor or an officer has a conflict of interest in a matter, they'll be asked to leave the meeting and no discussion on the matter will commence until we are sure that they have done so. The person will then be contacted to rejoin the meeting after the matter has been concluded and after the matter has been considered and the vote concluded. CEO Solomon, are there any apologies this evening?
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. Yes, we have one apology for this evening. Dawn Bray, our Director of Governance and People, and we have Greg Underhill sitting at the table in attendance on her behalf. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO Solomon. Councillors and officers, are there any disclosures of conflicts of interest to be made under Rule 94 of our Governance Rule and Division 2 of the Local Government Act 2020? Councillor Rayburn?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I have a number of conflicts. It's 11.2.1, 11.2.3, 11.6.1, 11.6.2.
Thank you, Councillor Rayburn. Are there any further conflicts of interest to declare? Councillor Dickinson?
Thank you, Mayor. I have a conflict on item 12.2.
Thank you, Councillor Dickinson. Are there any further conflicts of interest? No. Okay, councillors. The minutes from the extraordinary council meeting held on the 11th of April 2023, the ordinary council meeting held on the 18th of April 2023, the extraordinary council meeting held on the 2nd of May 2023 require confirmation. Councillors, can I have a motion, please? And can you state what your motion is? Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move the recommendation that's listed on page. Now, there you go. I can't see the page.
It doesn't have a page number. It's item 7 on our agenda.
Okay, item 7 on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Is there a seconder? Councillor Rayburn. Thank you, Councillor Rayburn. Did anyone wish to speak to the motion? No. If not, councillors, I shall put the motion for a vote. Can I see a show of hands? All those in favour, please. Against, and I declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. CEO Solomon, do we have any petitions to be tabled this evening?
Thank you, Mayor, and through you, no, there are no petitions for this evening.
Thank you. Councillors, would any of you like to make a report? Councillor Dickinson.
Thank you, Mayor. I only just recently read in the last few days that the RACV have nominated Ngambia as one of the top 9 day drives from Melbourne. So good for tourism for our region. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dickinson. Would any other councillor like to make a report? Councillor Hayes-Burke.
Just quickly, I just wanted to give a shout out to volunteers, especially this week, because this week's, is it National or Volunteers Week? So just thank you so much for your time and energy that you put into making our communities thrive. And we have an event taking place tomorrow at the Shepparton Art Museum, SAM, and I think it's not too late to register if you'd still like to come along. I also want to take this opportunity to say that I'm heartened by the positive conversations I'm having with the community about supporting the yes vote at the upcoming referendum, which asks Australia for a First Nations voice to Parliament. It's sad to see that some behaviour is undermining the good intent and the spirit of what this referendum could mean for Australia. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hayes-Burke. Would any other councillor like to make a report? Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to report on a number of activities that I attended in the last month or so, just to bring the community up to date. Going back to the 20th to 4th, I was pleased to speak at the unveiling of a memorial to Sir Charles Ryan down at Telegraph Park in Euroa. It was a great event and lots of people attended, and I'd like to extend my thanks to Jeff Starkey, who was the chief organiser of that event on that day. I'd also like to inform people that I went to a GV library board meeting on the 20th to 4th, and I'd like to encourage the community to get behind our local libraries in terms of our upcoming state budget. They are struggling a little bit. You might have heard a bit of conversation in the news today about some Geelong libraries and that they're possibly going to be closed. But anyway, they need your support. So go down to our local library or your local library to get some information about that. Anzac Day in Longwood Avenue and the Dawn Ceremony in Euroa I attended, laid some wreaths there. I'd like to, in particular, do a shout out to the Longwood organiser, Liz Heerman, who organised that day. It was a great day, and lots of people attended for the Longwood Anzac Day parade. I visited the Shadow Minister David Coleman MP and Sam Birrell MP on telecommunications issues around the Avenel district. I attended a meeting down there at the community hub in Avenel on the 27th of April. It was well attended, and it was part of our advocacy push from the Shire to try and do something about the poor mobile and telecommunications reception that we get in some of our communities. So it was pleasing to have them attend and to find out some more information. Longwood Water Tank, Longwood installed a new water tank down in their community. They brought it back from Loxley after many years, and I was pleased to go along and support the Longwood Action Group in reinstating that. It looks terrific. If you're passing by Longwood, you can see it there. It's a great effort, and particularly I'd like to thank Steve Tobin for all his efforts in that regard. And finally, I'd like to give a big shout out to Ricky Shiner and the Longwood Football Club for their 135th year celebration down at Longwood, which I attended. They had a great dinner, attended by lots and lots of people, and it was a great night. So thank you to Ricky and all his hard work down there. And if people want to catch up with me, I'm down at the Avenel Daily Dose every Friday afternoon. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Would any other councillor like to make a report? Yes, Councillor Horrigan.
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight, I'd like to provide a report on my attendance at the Euroa's Anzac Day Dawn service. The service was a truly moving and beautifully organised event, and I'm delighted to share that close to 400 people were in attendance. I want to express my gratitude to everyone who took part in this significant ceremony, as your presence and participation truly made it a special occasion. Furthermore, I want to take a moment just to extend the biggest thank you to all of our dedicated volunteers, especially as we are currently celebrating Volunteers Week. Strathbogie Shire takes immense pride in recognising and appreciating our remarkable volunteers. To show our gratitude, we have organised a bus that will depart from Euroa and Nagambie, heading to Shepparton Arts Centre for a guided tour this Wednesday. This is just one of the ways we're acknowledging and honouring our volunteers this week. Additionally, we have arranged free movie screenings at the Euroa Community Cinema for this weekend and next weekend, providing a fun and enjoyable experience for our community members, as we do recognise that not all of them could attend during the day on a Wednesday. So once again, I want to express my deepest appreciation to all the exceptional volunteers in our community. Your selfless dedication and tireless effort is what makes a significant difference in the lives of all of our residents. Your commitment to serving others is truly admirable, and we are incredibly grateful for your invaluable contributions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Horrigan. Are there any further? Yes, Councillor Dickinson.
Sorry, this is just for general information. With regards Volunteers Week, if they're unable to go on the SAM exhibition tomorrow, there are free movies next Saturday and the following Saturday.
Correct. Thank you, Councillor Dickinson. Councillors and community, I'll just give you some brief updates. So I wanted to start tonight by reminding our community that we're seeking your input on our draft budget and pitch my project submissions. It's a fantastic opportunity for everyone to share your thoughts and feedback and suggestions with council. If you're keen to have your say on the draft budget, you can do this by making a submission through our portal www.share.strathbogie.vic.gov.au or by writing to us by sending us an email or via the post. If it's a pitch my project that you want to participate in, you can do that at the Share Strathbogie website to prioritise your projects, and you can also do that at one of our survey stations, which are located in every township across the Shire. Feedback on the draft budget and the pitch my project submissions closes at 5 p.m. on May 31st. While we're talking about engagement, I also want to mention the Avenel 2030 strategy, which needs updating to better direct the residential growth that Avenel is experiencing. We want to hear from residents on how we direct residential growth while also protecting the township's unique historical character. You can do this by going to the same website, www.share.strathbogie.vic.gov.au, to contribute your thoughts and ideas, and you can also do so at the survey station, which is located at the Avenel Library. We'll use your feedback to develop a draft strategy, which will then be released for more consultation and to make sure we have captured your thoughts and feedback. Tomorrow is International Day Against Homophobia, Biphobia and Transphobia discrimination, and collectively they create the acronym IDA Hobbit. I am proud to share and celebrate this day, and I'm particularly happy that tomorrow we'll be flying the rainbow flag in Euroa and Nagambie to show our support. By way of an update, at our March council meeting, council resolved to exit the school crossing program. While we're exceptionally proud of our school crossing supervisors and the services that they deliver, we could not keep paying for something that is not ours. As part of the council resolution, a further report was required in the May 2023 council meeting cycle to advise of arrangements for the school crossing supervisor program post 10th of July 2023. The Department of Transport and Planning is currently considering the next steps following Strathbogie Shire Council's decisions. Council officers will continue to liaise with affected primary schools and school crossing supervisors as soon as more information is available. Also at our February council meeting, council resolved to endorse the release of the draft Strathbogie Economic Development Strategy 2023 to 2027 for broad community consultation and feedback. Furthermore, council also resolved to receive a further report at the May 2023 council meeting to consider the final economic development strategy detailing the outcomes of the community consultation on the draft Strathbogie Economic Development Strategy. Following the feedback period, officers are continuing to work on the final economic development strategy, with the strategy to be presented to a council meeting in the near future. Finally, tonight I want to briefly mention the appointment of Peter Stevenson as our municipal monitor. Because it is listed as an agenda item, I can't say more about this, but we welcome Mr. Stevenson to Strathbogie Shire, and we look forward to working with you to ensure council can continue delivering great things for our community. CEO Solomon, are there any questions from the public this evening?
Thank you. And through you, Mayor, yes, we have 10 submissions of questions for tonight's meeting. And I'll ask if there are people in the gallery that would like to come up to the table and ask their question, and then I can provide the response. So the first questions are from Ed and Pam Sprunt of Ruffy, who are in the gallery.
Would you like to come forward, Councillor Rayburn?
Just clarification through you, Mayor and CEO. It's due to I've got a conflict of interest in the questions they're asking of. Should I not be in the room?
Through you, Mayor. Councillor Rayburn, this is just general questions, and I don't think it's specifically related to your conflicts of interest.
Thanks for clarifying, Councillor Rayburn. Ed, would you like to come forward and ask your questions? You just need to press the button to turn on the microphone.
Thank you for having me. First time I've been to a meeting, and bit of an eye-opener because I don't know who the councils are. I know one or two of them, but I don't know the rest. Oh, sorry, Chris, that's all right.
Yep, that's it.
Sorry.
You're on.
So that been down, all right. Yeah, I'm speaking on behalf of the Ruffy Recreation Reserve and would like to ask these questions with the new proposed agreements between the council and us. It was stated in the email that council would cover all buildings and facilities and the upkeep of the grounds. Do you also cover the large water tank, which is for firefighting purposes, the large generator, and our water pour pump? So do I go question by question?
I think if you ask all the questions and then we've got the answers listed. So if you can ask all your questions together.
Also, as the reserve is a neighbourhood safer place, will you or CFA take a cover in regards to that situation? Do the CFA have their cover when taking water from the tank and helicopters land on the oval? Right. Will council allocate funds re our insurance costs and put these items on our new agreement? And are we still covered under the temporary agreement which was made in 2020? Thank you.
Thank you, Ed, and CEO, if you can answer those.
Thank you. Thank you for your questions, Ed. I will go through them one by one. In regards to your water tank and generator, assets on council's asset register will be included in council's building insurance. To ensure that we can have that clarification, officers will meet you on site or the community on site to further clarify that with you. Council, in terms of CFA insurance, council advises that this continues to be a matter for the CFA to undertake. In terms of...
You say it's a matter of CFA to undertake. Who makes them untake it? Do you do it as a council or do we have to do it?
You would need to get some advice through the CFA captain for the district. They will be able to provide you what's insured.
Or Region 22.
Thank you. That's exactly right. In terms of safer place for emergency management, in the event that the facility is activated for emergency management purposes, council or the lead agent who opens that facility and are managing the facility are responsible for holding appropriate insurance cover. So it depends who calls it as an emergency management centre.
Well, can you tell me who does call it?
So either council can do that or the lead agency, and that might be the CFA or it might be
SES?
VicPol or SES, whoever's the lead agency for that disaster. So that will be done in consultation with you as the local group.
Before agreements are drawn up.
Yep.
And once the discussion happens, will that be incorporated in our agreement with the council?
Let me get to that one, Ed.
Sorry.
That's okay. Is the committee covered until we get new cover? Council's insurer indicates that groups will have some proportional cover from a public liability perspective. We're working as quickly as possible to provide action groups and committees of management with funding to be able to take out their own insurances and have these discussions with insurance experts. Once we have some better understanding of your on-site specific arrangements, yes, these will be updated in a new agreement with you.
All right then, thank you.
Thank you.
And will we get some help from the Shire Council resetting things up beforehand so that we know which parties we are involved with, please?
Absolutely. Through you, Mayor, that will definitely be an officer will come and work with each group and meet them onto site to actually understand and discuss their particular circumstances because everyone is slightly different.
Yeah, I understand. All right, thank you very much for listening to me.
Thanks, Ed, and thank you for coming down to a council meeting.
The second question is from Danielle Party from Avenel Active Incorporated, and Daniela is not in attendance tonight, and I will read her question on her behalf. Daniela asks, will the payment of up to $1,200 to fund the 3 insurance policies be additional to the administration and community engagement funding to action groups? And in response, thank you for your question, Daniela. Yes, in line with this report, it is proposed to be separate from any other payment you receive currently from Council. The next questions are from Wendy McDonald on behalf of the Euroa Community Action Group, and I will also read her questions on her behalf. Wendy asks, what records would need to be maintained from a council perspective re insurance matters? Second question, many community groups are feeling the effects of much larger insurance costs than in the past, and we note that part of this proposal would see us allocated funds to cover this cost. Will this funding be ongoing, or will it be subject to a review process? And Wendy's third question, will we require a separate insurance policy specifically for the Euro or the community garden in Euroa? And in response, thank you, Wendy. Council requires a copy of the insurance quote in order to release the funds for the insurance allocation. Council does not require any other records. These funds will be processed each year via Council's annual budgetary processes. The recommendation is not year specific, so officers are recommending that this allocation to community groups is impacted by this decision is ongoing. On the last matter, you will need to have a discussion between your action group and the insurance to determine whether you need separate insurance for the community garden. And thank you for your questions, Wendy. Our fourth submitter, Mayor, is from Tom Ma, who is in attendance tonight.
Tom, would you like to ask your questions, or would you like the CEO to read them?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I'll ask the question.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, Council and Senior Officers, it's great to be able to ask a question or 2 questions. The first question is in relation to the Kerwins Bridge. What's happening to the bridge, considering that all allocation of monies has been put towards this bridge? The question relates to the Kerwins Bridge. The question relates to the Shire Strathbogie. Quite a few years ago, you should have the records of that bridge. You should have the minutes of that meeting, which contains the inspection of the bridge and the costs for the bridge, and was reopened, and the costs incurred in the council per year. They are the council documents.
Thank you, Tom.
Second question is on your agenda, page 22, 11.2.3, insurance and liability community action grants, council owned or managed facilities. That brings me to the question of 2 reserves in the council. What's happened to the Balmadam School Recreation Reserve? It's council property, it's a reserve, and council responsibility. What's happened?
Thank you, Tom. I'll
Thanks,
hand to
Madam
the
Mayor.
CEO to answer the questions.
Thank you, Tom, for your questions this evening. In terms of Kerwins Bridge, I will answer that one first. Through our work with the Kerwins Bridge Community Panel, we are investigating 2 options post the flood. Well, these options actually were initiated pre-flood in recognition of all of that work that has happened previously. And 2 options have been identified for the future of the bridge, these being a new replica bridge with pedestrian and cycling access, or extensive structural repairs and strengthening works to the existing bridge. The tender for the work to design and cost these 2 options developed by the community panel has been awarded to JJ Ryan Engineering for the sum of $107,000 in January 2023 for an options report. I am pleased to advise that work is well underway. We anticipate that detailed design drawings for the two options and cost estimates will be completed by the end of July or early August this year. We understand that the costs will be well above our capacity to pay, and there will be further community consultation to determine the best option to ensure that the bridge does remain open and is safe for the next 50 years. We will need the community to work with us to advocate strongly for Victorian and federal government funding to complete the works. In terms of your second question, Tom, regarding the Belmadam School Recreation Reserve. This reserve forms part of our maintenance program and in particular slashing and grass cutting of the grounds. These works are carried out on a 4 to 6 week interval depending on the season and growth. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, councillors.
CEO, are there further questions?
Thank you, Mayor. There are. We're only halfway through. The next question is from John Beresford of Nagambie, and he has submitted the following. The notes from the agenda for council meeting May 16, 2023, page 47, item 11.2.5, Waterways Management, Goulburn River from Hughes Creek to Goulburn Weir, including Lake Nagambie, funding advocacy to inform council's role. The Nagambie Waterways Advisory Committee has recommended that council consult with all other stakeholders who use the waterways, including Goulburn Murray Water, Goulburn Valley Water, and Goulburn Broken Catchment Management Authority before any decision with regard to ongoing management of the waterways is made. Has council consulted with all stakeholders, including ratepayers, before considering any decision with regard to ongoing management of the waterways? Is council satisfied that all stakeholders have been provided with adequate time to consider and provide feedback on any council proposals regarding the ongoing management of the waterways? And in response, thank you for your questions, John. Pending tonight's decision on the matter, officers will continue to engage with the relevant stakeholders within the confines of their remit. Please be assured that council officers have engaged early with key stakeholders regarding this matter, including the Department of Transport and Planning, formerly Safe Transport Victoria, and formerly that were known as Marine Safety Victoria, Goulburn Murray Water, and the Waterways Advisory Committee. And thanks for your question, John. So we have 3 questions tonight in support of the Uluru Statement of the Heart. I will read each question and then I will respond to them together. The first question is from David Willis, and he writes, on the 19th of February 2019, Council listened to the wishes of residents and supported the sentiments of the Uluru Statement, including supporting the process of constitutional recognition of First Nations people. 6 motions were carried at that agenda item 9.7.7. Given the constitutional reform referendum campaign is now in full swing, can Council update residents on the progress of these motions? We also have a question from Anne Douglas on the same matter. Anne writes, as an active resident of Avenel, I have had discussions with a number of people on how we can promote the importance of the Uluru Statement. In 2019, a council motion was passed which continues to have strong community support. However, the negativity and misinformation being promoted by some in the community does need to be refuted. Given this negativity being caused by ill-informed social media posts, how does Council propose to show leadership on the matter of the Uluru Statement? And the third question in relation to this statement is from Tim Gallagher. Tim states and asks, In 2019, I was one of the many people present in the public gallery when a motion was passed to support the Uluru Statement of the Heart. We recounted afterwards that there had been a spontaneous round of applause. We were most heartened by this. As strong advocates of the voice movement for a yes vote, we are dismayed by the negativity and information promoted in some parts of the community. In order to address some of the concerns on our local level, the Violet Town and District Recognised Group has already convened a meeting of supporters of the yes vote for the referendum, with more to follow. How does Council propose to support and act on the motion previously passed? And thank you, Anne, Tim and David, for your questions. And in response, I offer. I would like to first read out the motion that was passed by Council at its meeting on the February 19th to 2019. That Council support the sentiments contained in the Uluru Statement of the Heart. That Council support Aboriginal recognition and reform of the Constitution. That Council support a referendum campaign and process to enshrine a First Nations voice to federal parliament. That Council put forward a resolution to the State Council of the Municipal Association of Victoria for statewide local government formal support of this issue. The Council notify the government ministers, federal and state, who is responsible for Indigenous affairs, as well as local, state and federal members of Council's resolution, and that Council assist with creating broader awareness of the need for constitutional reform by using Council communication, marketing and promotional avenues and displaying posters and postcards, etc. in Council-owned buildings. This motion was before my appointment, but as a resolution of Council, I'm confident officers have enacted every part of that resolution. I can also confirm that the Uluru Statement of the Heart is on the wall outside of the room we're currently sitting in, and you would have noticed that on your way in. I would like to speak to the important projects that have been undertaken in the past 3 years to support Aboriginal recognition and reform. In 2021, we officially signed and adopted an MOU with the Tangerang Land and Waters Council. This was not just to ensure we comply with legislation, it was to strengthen our relationship with our First Nations people. Our MOU is underpinned by principles which establish the commitment and relationship between the two parties. These include the following principles, and I would like to read out to address your questions. That Council designed to address the past, embrace the process of reconciliation and truth-telling. That Council respect and hold in strong regard the Aboriginal cultural heritage, traditions, customs and beliefs of the Tangerang people. And that Council supports the recognition of Aboriginal sovereignty in the Australian Constitution. In 2022, we adopted a new community vision that includes the words, "We care deeply for country and First Nations people." Last year, we also started the conversation about Council's role on Australia Day, and this matter a recommendation on this will be considered by on tonight's Council agenda. Council support for Indigenous Voice to Parliament referendum will be a matter for councillors to discuss, and officers will act on their advice. And thank you for your questions. The next questions are from Robin Weatherald in Euroa. And I will also read that question on behalf of Robin. A new local government office appointed monitor to assist councillors with governance issues. 1, will council receive monthly reports? 2, will the report be made public, and if not public, please explain why? Robin's second question, will council place the Australia Day question to public in form of referendum? As voters, do you want to abandon Australia Day? Thank you for your questions, Robin, and in response. The Minister for Local Government, the Honourable Melissa Horne, has appointed Mr Peter Stevenson as the Municipal Monitor for Strathbogie Shire. The appointment has been made in response to concerns around governance and health and safety of councillors and staff. The Monitor will examine why Council has been unable to resolve issues identified by the previous Monitor, Janet Dorr, over the past 12 months appointment made at the request of Council. The terms of Mr Stevenson's appointment are specific and different to the previous monitors. He will be reporting directly to the Minister on relationships between councillors, between council and council staff. The Minister will determine if a final report will be released. In response to your second question, the federal government has started its intention to hold the referendum between September and December this year. The date will be formalised by issuing of a writ by the Governor-General, the formal instruction to the Australian Electoral Commission to conduct a poll. The referendum is a federal government responsibility, and the process will be managed by the AEC. Council will be considering its role and involvement in January 26 activities in item 11.2.4 in tonight's agenda. And thank you for your question. And Mayor, finally, the last question for this evening is from Diane Andrew of Euroa, and Diane is not present tonight, and I will, oh no, she is. Hello, Diane. I invite you forward to come and ask your question.
Would you like us to read it for you? Certainly.
So Diane's question for this evening is to Council. Are you aware that Indigenous have no treaty with the United Nations, therefore their land cannot be taken from them, but the rest of the people of Australia are subject to United Nations as they are the trustee in bankruptcy?
Okay, this is going to come as quite a shock to most people.
Oh, Diane, you can't speak to your question. You can ask a question and the CEO will answer it. So it's not an opportunity. It's an opportunity to ask a question to the council, but the officer will then provide an answer to you. Thank you, Diane.
Thank you, Diane, for your question. The United Nations Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People was adopted by the General Assembly on Thursday, September 13, 2007. It establishes a universal framework of minimum standards for the survival, dignity and well-being of Indigenous peoples of the world, and it elaborates on existing human rights standards and fundamental freedoms as they apply to Indigenous peoples. Article 10 states, Indigenous peoples shall not be forcibly removed from their lands or territories. No relocation shall take place without the free, prior and informed consent of the Indigenous peoples concerned, and after agreement on just and fair compensation, and, where possible, with the option to return. And thank you for your question.
Thank you. And CEO Julie Salomons, I did write to you 12 months ago regarding removal of the Crown under the Part 8 of the Acts Amendments and Repeals Court and Legal Practices Act. And as such, I'm arresting you for misprision of treason and fraud at common law, misprision of treason at common law and fraud at common law. And I will be attending to the paperwork during the week. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, councillors, we will now move on to the officer reports. Yes, is that, sorry, and they're around the insurance. Yes, you can speak to the item when we come to that item on the agenda, so that I think we understood that you wanted to speak to the item.
Okay, I had a phone call this afternoon asking for my 2 questions.
Yeah, if you want to send those questions through, we can provide an answer, but it wouldn't be tonight because but if you wanted, I was under the impression you were speaking to the item on the agenda regarding, okay, great. All right. Yes, Mark?
I'd like to clarify one point.
Yes.
I indicated I want to speak tonight, particularly on the issue of Australia Day.
Yes.
So is that going to be part of the questions that you just had, or separately when you start?
It will be at the item when we discuss it. Yes. I invite, there's quite a few people that want to speak to different items. throughout the agenda, and I'll invite you to come forward at that time and make your presentation then. Okay, thank you, Mark. Okay, councillors, we will move to the officer reports. Councillor Hourigan?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make a procedural motion if I could, please.
Certainly, Councillor Hourigan.
Thank you. I'd like to change the order of items on the agenda tonight. I'd like to move that item 14.5.1 under urgent business to be considered the first item of tonight's meeting report agenda.
Thank you, Councillor Hourigan. Do I have a seconder for the motion? Councillor Rayburn. And councillors, can I see a show of hands? All those in favour, please. And against, and I declare that carried. Thank you. We'll now move to the item of urgent business. Of course you may leave. I apologise for not letting you know that, Ed, but yes, you're very welcome to pop up home, and thank you for coming down. If anyone else would like to leave at this point, you're more than welcome to. You are not required to stay for the full meeting. I suspect it could be a late night.
Thank you very much. I'll have to come to more meetings so I know who's around the table and just the way you work.
Thank you, Ed. We'll be in touch. Okay. Yes. CEO Solomon, do we have any urgent business for tonight?
Thank you. Thank you, and through you, Mayor. Yes, the matter that has been forward from urgent business to item 1 now is the consideration and determination of the appointment of the municipal monitor.
Thank you. And can we have, did you want to give a summary of the report?
Thank you. I would be happy to.
Thank you, CEO Solomon.
And through you, Mayor. As mentioned during public question time, the Minister for Local Government, the Honourable Miss Melissa Horne MP, has informed the Mayor, Councillor Laura Binks, on the 15th of May that a municipal monitor, Peter Stevenson, has been appointed for a 3-month period under the authority of the Local Government Act. Mr Stevenson has been appointed to continue the work of the former municipal monitor, Ms Janet Dorr, and to address ongoing conduct and governance issues at council. The Minister has provided for 2 to 3 days support per week on work directly related to acquitting the terms of reference, which are attached to this evening's report. The terms of Mr Stevenson's appointment are quite specific and different, as previously mentioned, and he will be reporting directly to the Minister on relationships between councillors, between councils and council staff. This includes councillor behaviour with respect to council code of conduct and processes for resolving disputes between councillors. Mr Stevenson comes to us with much broad experience, having held senior roles in a range of organisation, including government, community services, higher education and health sectors. He is a former councillor and mayor of Darebin City Council, and as a municipal monitor he worked with South Gippsland Shire Council and the rural city of Wangaratta. Councillors, on page 2 of the, no, it's not page.
Oh, it's page 2 of the urgent business. It's come out as separate. Yeah.
111. There is a recommendation for council's consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO Solomon. Councillors, are there any questions of clarification for the CEO regarding this item of urgent business? No? In that case, councillors, can I have a motion, please? And can you state what your motion is? Thank you, Councillor Rayburn.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you, Mayor, I'd like to recommend to the council that the recommendation printed on page 2 of the urgent business be adopted. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Rayburn. Is there a seconder to the motion? Councillor Haysbert. Thank you. Would anyone like to speak to the motion, Councillor Rayburn?
Yes, it's strange to be sitting here again as a councillor having another municipal monitor coming into our room. I, as mayor, back in 2021, asked the Minister of the day to appoint a municipal monitor, which was Janet Dorr, who I actually worked very, very well and closely with to try and improve the governance and understanding of how the role of councillors was, and I believed at the time things were going positive. But it's sad to see to this moment that we've had to reintroduce another municipal monitor into our room, because it just I don't know. It's sad. That's all I'll say. It's sad.
Thank you, Councillor Rayburn. Councillor Haysbert, did you want to speak to the motion? Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Murray.
I'd just like to say I'm looking forward to the opportunity of working with the council monitor. I think I'd like to look on it as a positive step, again, to continue the improvement of the functioning of this council, and hope that we see some improvements and operating more effectively and efficiently for our ratepayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Councillors, if there's no further councillors wishing to speak to the motion, I'll put the motion to vote. Can I see a show of hands? All those in favour, please. Against? And declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. We shall now move back to page 1 of our original agenda. And item 11.1.1, amended planning permit applications and amended plans P 2005-124 and P 2016-109 at 317 High Street, Nagambie. Manager Aitken, may we have a summary of the report, please?
Thank you, Mayor. The amended planning permit applications seek approval of amended plans showing a revised car parking layout along the northern boundary and a revised notation allowing for people staying in the motel units on site to access this common parking area where spaces are available. Effectively, the only on-ground works proposed by the amended applications would be the reline marking of the car spaces along the northern boundary of the land. This would result in the loss of one car parking space in the common parking area. The scope of the assessment of the applications is limited to the amended plans and is not a reassessment of the merits of the original applications. In practical terms, the assessment becomes about ensuring the revised car parking layout provides for a satisfactory parking outcome on the land. In order to understand the history of the land's planning permits, P 2005-124 and P 2016-109 must be read in conjunction. The development approved by these permits has been constructed and the uses approved remain ongoing. The two permits allow for the following: 3 shopfront premises along High Street, 4 motel units, 10 serviced apartments in 9 buildings, a common access way and car parking area, and approval of a reduction in car parking requirements. Approval of the amended applications will not result in changes to the approved use and development or any conditions of either planning permit. Officers have undertaken a car parking assessment as detailed in the planning reports included as an attachment to this council report. Based on an analysis of how the land currently operates and consideration of the relevant parking provisions of the Strathbogie planning scheme, officers are satisfied that the proposed amended plans will allow for an acceptable parking outcome on the site. The application was advertised and 3 objections were received. The main grounds of objection related to the parking provision and the safety and access to these car parking spaces, as well as the legal authority for the applications to be made. Officers have reviewed the grounds of objection and are satisfied that the proposal will provide for adequate on-site car parking that can be accessed in a safe manner. Officers are also satisfied that the application has been made by a legal entity, being the owner's corporation for the common property on the land. Following an assessment of the amended planning permit applications against the relevant requirements of the planning scheme, it is recommended that notice of decisions to grant amended planning permits are issued, and the recommendation is on page 2 for Council's consideration.
Thank you, Manager Aitken. Councillors, are there any questions or clarification for the officer? No, I understand that we have Chris Mentham, the Owners Corporation applicant, who wishes to address the meeting. Is Chris with us tonight? Yes, Chris, would you like to come forward? Thank you, Chris. You have 5 minutes to make your presentation.
Thank you, Mayor. There's not a lot to go over, really. I think Braden has covered everything that's required there. Our little community at 317 High Street has it's a nice little spot, and we've had trouble from one owner who continues to park his car and block the other owners off from accessing a turnaround area and exiting the complex in a forward motion. I believe he is probably one of the objectors. And all we're asking for is a simple amendment so that we can reline mark them up the lines. The objector, or the supposed objector, blacked out the existing line marking so that nobody knows where to park. So all we want to do is clarify the parking locations, minimise by or reduce the parking by one so that there's additional space for people to move in and move out in a forward motion. So I think it's as simple as that. It's not complex. I'm an engineer. We haven't had a traffic report done on it because I don't think it warrants a traffic report. It's pretty self-explanatory with the application.
Thank you, Chris. Councillors, you are able to ask questions of clarification, but you cannot enter into debate with Chris. Are there any questions of clarification you'd like to ask the applicant? No? Okay, councillors, thank you, Chris. Thank you for coming, and you're also welcome to leave after we've made our decision on this matter if you would like to.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you. If there's no further questions or clarification sought from councillors, can I have a motion, please, and can you state what your motion is, councillors? Councillor Andrews, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I move the recommendation on page 2 of the agenda be adopted.
Thank you, Councillor Andrews. And a seconder, please, Councillor Dickinson. Thank you, Councillor Dickinson. Would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor Andrews?
Thank you, Mayor. This has been going on for a long time, and planning issues with that particular property. I think the council via their planning department have worked through it very diligently and come up with a reasonable and optimal resolution here, so I support the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Andrews. Councillor Dickinson, did you wish to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. I think this motion makes perfect sense and hopefully will cut down a lot of headaches that have been going on for a number of years, and this hopefully will solve the issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dickinson. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? No. Okay, councillors, I shall put the motion to vote. Can I see a show of hands? All those in favour, please. And against, and I declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. We will now move to item 11.1.2, the planning applications received and planning applications determined, the 1st to 30th of April 2023. Manager Aitken, may we have a summary of this report, please?
Thank you, Mayor. I refer you to page 12 of the agenda, where it's noted that there were 6 new planning applications received and 11 planning permit applications decided upon during the reporting period. Officers continue to see a mixture of applications being lodged, including farm sheds, dwelling additions and multi-lot subdivisions. As mentioned, the recommendations on page 12 for Council's consideration.
Thank you, Manager Aitken. Councillors, are there any questions of clarification of the officer? Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, could I have an explanation of the red line area for licensed premises, please?
Yes, so the red line area is a plan that's required to designate the area where alcohol can legally be served in a venue. Sometimes it's restricted to a building. Other times it may also show an area outside, such as outdoor dining, where alcohol can be served.
Thank you, Manager Aitken. Okay, councillors, are there any further questions or clarification? If not, councillors, can I have a motion, please, and can you state what your motion is? Councillor Rayburn.
Thank you, Mayor. And through you, Mayor, I'd like to move the recommendation, which is printed on page 12, be adopted by Council.
Thank you, Councillor Rayburn. Is there a seconder to the motion? Councillor Hayes-Burke. Thank you, Councillor Hayes-Burke. Did you wish to speak to the motion, Councillor Rayburn? Councillor Hayes-Burke, would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? In that case, councillors, I'll put the motion to the vote. Can I see a show of hands? All those in favour, please. And against, and declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. I now move to page 14, and Councillor Rayburn has declared a conflict of interest in this item, so we'll leave the room. And I can confirm that Councillor Rayburn has left the room at 6:55 p.m. This is item 11.2.1, grant variation request 2022 to 23 community grants program funding. Director Tingay, may we have a summary of this report, please?
Thank you, Mayor Binks. Council has received a request from the Shadforth Native Reserve Committee of Management for a variation to a project previously funded under the Community Grant Funding Program Round 1 in this financial year. At the August 2022 council meeting, the Shadforth Nature Reserve Committee of Management were allocated $4,487 for a component of the enhanced entrance driveway and park area at Shadforth Reserve project. This project is now complete and there is an underspend of $460. The Committee of Management are requesting that these unspent funds be put towards a weed management program. Officers are in support of this request following the assessment of the request from the committee. There is a recommendation on page 14 of the agenda for Council's consideration. Thank you, Mayor Binks.
Thank you, Director Tingay. Councillors, are there any questions or clarification for the officer? No? Okay, councillors, can I have a motion, please, and can you state what your motion is? Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Mayor. Can I move the recommendation as listed on page 14 of the agenda, please?
Certainly, Councillor Murray. Can I have a seconder for the motion? Councillor Hayes-Burke. Thank you, Councillor Hayes-Burke. Would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor Murray?
Only to thank the Shadforth Nature Reserve Committee for informing us of this and for putting in their application. And I think it's a good use for the extra $460 that's left over to manage that particular reserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Councillor Hayes-Burke, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, I'd also just like to say I think it's great to see the money being invested back into this fabulous community asset that I've attended Bush Kinder at, and it's fabulous, and I really congratulate all the volunteers who work hard to make it what it is.
Thank you, Councillor Hayes-Burke. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? No? If not, councillors, I shall put the motion to a vote. Can I see a show of hands? All those in favour, please. And against, and declare that carried. We will now invite Councillor Rayburn back into the meeting. And I confirm that Councillor Rayburn has returned and it is 6:58 p.m. Wow, I've got a big clock over here today. Thank you, Acting Director. Okay, we now move to page 18 of the agenda. And it is item 11.2.2, grants program, small projects, application from Nagambie Lakes Men's Shed. Director Tingay, may we have a summary of this report, please?
Thank you, Mayor Binks. Council has received an application under the Community Grants Program, small projects from the Nagambie Lakes Men's Shed to assist with the establishment of an honour board. The request is for cash funding of $566.54 to contribute to the costs of purchasing and populating the honour board. Following the officer assessment process, it is recommended that Council approve this grant request. There is a recommendation on page 18 for Council's consideration. Thank you, Mayor Binks.
Thank you, Director Tingay. Councillors, are there any questions or clarification regarding this item? No? Okay, councillors, can I have a motion, please? And can you state what your motion is? Councillor Dickinson.
I'd like to move the motion as recommended on page 18.
Thank you, Councillor Dickinson. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Murray. Thank you, Councillor Murray. Would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor Dickinson?
Look, this is a great little group of men, as all men's sheds are around Australia. And they've been going for about 6 or 7 years and do a lot of good work for the community. So to start an honour board, like most organisations do, I think it's a small cost for the council, and I think it's well worth it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dickinson. Councillor Murray, would you like to speak to the motion?
Briefly, just to reiterate that, it's a great movement. The men's shed movement. As a previous member of the Royal One, I recognise all the hard work that that some of those members do, and the benefit that they bring to their members and the volunteers that are there. And I'm pleased to support this particular application with our volunteer week on us as it is, and I think that's terrific.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? No. Okay, councillors, I shall put the motion to a vote. Can I see a show of hands? All those in favour, please. And against, and to declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. And now move to page 22 of the agenda, and item 11.2.3. Councillor Rayburn has declared a conflict of interest, so he will be leaving the meeting, and I will confirm that he has left the meeting we'll wait for the doors to close. Oh, 7:02 p.m. Thank you. So item 11.2.3, insurance and liability, community action groups and council-owned and managed facilities. Director Tingay, may we have a summary of the report, please?
Thank you, Mayor Binks. Council has historically provided a range of community groups and committees with insurance where groups were operating under the guidance or direction of council. Changes introduced through the new Local Government Act 2020 mean that Section 86 committees of management no longer exist, and as such, a number of committees are now independent incorporated organisations. As these committees and groups have their own legal status, they are no longer authorised by council or council controlled in any way. In effect, they simply hold a lease or licence with council to operate a facility, or they may have a funding agreement in place with council for a specific purpose. Advice from council's insurer indicates that holding insurance for the above groups and committees is not advisable, and that they do not believe that the groups and committees are adequately covered through council's existing policies. They recommend that the groups or committees themselves should take out the necessary cover and be the policy holder, not council. This ensures that they have appropriate cover for the relevant group or committee, their volunteers, and the activities they undertake. It is important to note that this advice specifically relates to community action groups and committees managing council assets, including halls and recreation reserves. It also relates to product and public liability, association liability insurance, which includes fraud and mismanagement and poor governance decisions, and volunteer insurance. Council is required to hold appropriate building insurance cover for all council-owned facilities and hold a certain level of public liability associated with their asset or public land. This cover is in place and is appropriate. Councillors, this report recommends officers inform the groups and committees of Council's insurance advice and requests that they take out their own appropriate insurance cover. Further, it's recommended that Council provide the funds of up to $1,200, an annual payment subject to annual market value per group or committee, detailed within this report to cover this specific insurance cost. There is a recommendation on page 23 for Council's consideration. Thank you, Mayor Binks.
Thank you, Director Tingay. Councillors, are there any questions of clarification for the officer regarding this item? Councillor Hayes-Burke.
Thanks, Mayor. I have a few questions for Director Tingay. So when did Council become aware that the insurance for these groups was an issue?
Through you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Hayes-Burke, for that question. Officers became aware that this was a concern in April, and we've been working as quickly as possible to bring it to the May Council meeting.
Thank you. Did you have follow-up questions?
Couple, yeah, thanks. Were these groups mentioned only ever covered by Council before the introduction of the 2020 Local Government Act?
So under the old Local Government Act, the 1989 Act, they were covered under existing council policies as they were Section 86 committees delegated under the Act and by Council.
Thanks. And so how did we come up with the $1,200 figure to be awarded to these groups to cover the cost of insurance?
Through you, Mayor Binks. So this figure is based on the current price from reputable insurers for three types of insurance mentioned within this report.
Thank you, Director Tingay and Councillor Hayes-Burke. Did you have questions, Councillor Murray? Yes.
Thank you, Mayor. Director, could I ask a question about the contents of insurance for these particular groups? So those items that are within the building, will they have to cover those themselves?
Thank you, Councillor Murray, and through you, Mayor Binks. So contents insurance continues to be the responsibility of user groups and committees, and that includes any contents that's not part of the actual building. So any loose contents that might be owned directly by the individual committees or groups is the responsibility of the groups and continues to be. Fixed assets such as air conditioners and heaters and the like would be maintained under Council's building insurance.
Thank you, Director Tingay. Have you got a follow-up question, Councillor Murray?
A subsequent question. So for those assets that we hold that aren't listed in this in the list here, such as the Farmers Arms Museum, will we continue to cover their insurance?
Through you, Mayor Binks. This report specifically relates to what was the old Section 86 committees and also community action groups. In regards to other buildings, if they are council-owned facilities, there is building insurance in place, but it is up to the individual user groups and committees if they have contents that they insure that appropriately.
Thank you, Director Tingay. Councillor Dickinson.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillor Murray and I had a discussion about this previous to the meeting. I thought he might have asked the question. Can you clarify, please, are carpets part of the contents of the building? Thank you.
Through you, Mayor Binks, my understanding that carpet is part of the building, but I'm happy to take that on notice to confirm that, but that is my understanding that it's part of the building.
Thank you, Director Tingay. Are there any further questions or clarification? If not, I know that we have Anne, and I always pronounce your Quain. Thank you, Anne. I always want to add another N in there somewhere. Quain. Anne Quain of Violet Town would like to address the meeting. If you'd like to come forward, Anne, you have 5 minutes to make your presentation. You just need to turn on the microphone, and I just remind councillors that we can ask questions or clarification, but we're not to enter into debate. Thank you, Anne.
Okay, so I advise my name's Anne Quain. I'm the Treasurer of the Violet Town Action Group and make the representation on behalf of VTAG. I've read the agenda items referred to above and note that the proposed changes outlined in the agenda will take effect from the 30th of June 2023, and that there's a proposal to provide the action groups an annual payment of $1,200, subject to market value, to alleviate the cost of the action groups seeking their own insurance cover. I also note that the Shire has been advised by its insurer that it cannot provide the necessary cover and that its paid staff are overwhelmed by the insurance queries from the action groups. I'd like it recorded that as an unpaid volunteer member of VTAG, I too am overwhelmed by the responsibilities of organising the required insurance cover, ensuring it is adequate, and then being responsible for the payment of the required policies. It's now evident I'll have to devote an inordinate amount of time to making the necessary arrangements effective from the 1st of July 2023. I note the term subject to market value when speaking of the $1,200 payment, and I'm concerned about what that might mean. Executive summary paragraph 4 states council will continue to hold appropriate building insurance cover for all council-owned facilities and hold a certain level of public liability associated with the asset public land. My concern is what the term certain level of public liability effectively means and what might the action groups have to have in addition to that. So the other thing I have a concern about is the authorised officers to prepare and execute temporary hire agreements with a fee waiver in place for the 23-24 financial year for users of the Violet Town Recreation Reserve until such time that a lease or licence is in place. Not sure how that affects Violet Town. A list of the current hall and committees does not list our hall, and item 17 refers to the Violet Town Recreation Reserve that currently has no COM. I don't know the impact on Violet Town Action Group about that. The agenda document makes a statement that in the last para on page 25 that the council has historically provided the relevant insurance cover for the above mentioned groups. Until 24th of February 2023, the Shire did not provide insurance cover to VTAG. On expiry of VTAG policies on the 24th of February 2023, after much toing and froing, the Shire agreed to provide the following insurance covers for VTAG: public liability, except for market, voluntary workers, and association liability insurance, fraud and mismanagement. The change that happened in February 2023 for VTAG provided a cost savings to VTAG of $2,852, which was greatly appreciated and duly noted. I might make mention that the last time we paid a premium for voluntary workers, it was $1,216. Anyway, it's an awkward situation. I'm finding that the onus on volunteers who may or may not have the necessary competency to deal with these issues is being passed over. And I just like that reflected. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. Before you leave, Anne, I just see if there's any questions of clarification regarding your presentation. Councillors, were there any questions of clarification for Anne?
Ask the director, will we be talking to the groups to answer some of the questions that Anne's raised? Because I guess I can't provide those now, but
Through you, Mayor Binks, yes, we will be.
We'll need some details.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, we will be. We'll be coming out, as mentioned earlier, we'll be coming out to the individual committees. Obviously, we provide them with the advice last week and obviously with the meeting agenda as well, but we'll be coming back to the individual committees, noting that individual committees do have individual concerns in regards to their individual circumstances.
Yeah. And just confirming, and you've provided that list of questions to the council, haven't you? So yeah, we've got that to work off. So
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
And thank you for taking the time and for your incredible volunteer efforts. Yeah, enjoy it. I hope you have a lovely day. Thank you, Anne. Councillors, if there are no further questions of clarification regarding this item, I will ask for a motion, please, and can you state your motion? Councillor Horrigan?
Thank you, Mayor Binks. I'd like to move a motion that we adopt the recommendation as it is written on page 23 of our agenda tonight and also continues on to page 24.
Thank you, Councillor Horrigan. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Hayes-Burke. Thank you, Councillor Hayes-Burke. Would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor Horrigan?
Yes, please, Mayor Binks. I support this recommendation. It is important that these groups take responsibility for their own insurance requirements, which will promote their accountability and self-reliance. Council will continue to hold appropriate building insurance cover for our facilities and maintain a certain level of public liability. However, it is crucial for these groups and committees to obtain their own coverage to effectively manage their risks. I'm pleased to see that Council is proactively informing these groups and committees about the insurer's advice and requesting that they obtain their own appropriate insurance coverage. Furthermore, I am in favour of providing financial support up to the $1,200 annually per group/committee to assist them in covering their specific insurance costs. This demonstrates that Council's commitment to facilitating their transition to independent insurance arrangements while ensuring that they receive the necessary support. I believe that the review of the insurance provision for our community groups and committees is a necessary step in adapting to the changing legal requirements, as we've heard tonight. By encouraging these groups to obtain their own insurance and taking responsibility for their coverage, we're promoting their growth. So Council's role should be to facilitate this transition and to provide the necessary support along the way, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Horrigan. Councillor Hayes-Burke, would you like to speak to the motion?
I second the statements made by Councillor Horrigan, and I think that Council in providing the $1,200, that commitment annually, that recognises the invaluable contribution that these committees make to critical local infrastructure. So, I mean, it is hard to take, and I think it does place an extra potential financial burden on community groups, but Council's left with no choice given, as Councillor Horrigan mentioned, the change in local government. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hayes-Burke. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Dickinson?
I have a question, if that's all right.
Oh, we've moved past questions, I'm afraid.
That's all right.
Yep. Councillor Murray, did you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, I support the motion, but I do also support the sentiments that we've heard tonight about the imposition of yet another problem for our volunteers. And I'm mindful here we are in Volunteer Week, asking volunteers to do more. Next time round. And I think that's a great shame that we have to put more burden onto our volunteers who are already well stretched in terms of what they do. But I do think it's a necessary imposition, as Councillor Hayes-Burke indicated. I think our volunteers are better placed to actually work out the events and what needs to be covered and who's helping when and so on in terms of the volunteer capacity. It would be a very difficult task for us to do it properly, and I think the volunteers are better placed to do that. But I am mindful that they will need support, and I'm sure that the council, that officers will engage with each of the community groups and offer them the support that they need. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? That's the case. I'll put the motion to a vote. Can I see a show of hands? All those in favour, please. And against, and declare that carried. Thank you. We'll now invite Councillor Rayburn back into the meeting. Thank you. And thank you. Good evening. I can confirm that Councillor Rayburn has returned to the meeting at 7:18 p.m. We now move to page 30 of the agenda, item 11.2.4, Council's role in acknowledging January 26, 2024 and beyond. Director Tingay, may we have a summary of the report, please?
Thank you, Mayor Binks. A council report was considered at the May 2022 council meeting, authorising broader consultation on 2 options with the community and relevant stakeholders regarding council's role in acknowledging January 26. The broad consultation on 2 options provided no clear mandate for change, nor a strong determination to retain existing arrangements. At the extraordinary council meeting held on the 28th of June 2022, council resolved to note the feedback from the consultation and continue to celebrate January 26 in 2023 as per existing arrangements. As the direction only considers arrangements for 2023, further direction is required from council regarding arrangements for 2024 and onwards. Since the last report on this matter, Council has received a formal statement from Tangerang Land and Waters Councils that articulates their agreed position, which is not to participate in any activities associated with January 26, and requests that our partners and stakeholders respect this position. In line with Council's MOU with the Tangerang Land and Water Council and its January 2026 statement, and after the review of 3 officer options as detailed in this report, it is recommended that Council no longer formally supports celebrations on January 26 from 2024 and beyond. It is important to note that this recommendation does not exclude Australia Day committees from continuing to host and deliver township celebrations, including award celebrations on January 26, or applying for funding directly to the Australia Day National Council. The recommendation also seeks to empower the new Shire Strathbogie Community Panel to determine how we best recognise our volunteers who make outstanding contributions within the existing budget allocation as detailed within this report. There is a recommendation on page 31 of the agenda for Council's consideration. Thank you, Mayor Binks.
Thank you, Director Tingay. Councillors, are there any questions of clarification for the officer? Councillor Rayburn.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you, Mayor. Director Tingay, in reference to the Australia Day Committee of each town having their selected members, are they eligible, or will they be looked at in the panel to be selected to go onto the Volunteers Week?
Through you, Mayor Binks. Thank you, Councillor Rayburn, for your question. So essentially the recommendation is asking, as part of the recommendation, it's empowering the Shire Strathbogie Community Panel to determine how best we recognise our volunteers who make contributions to our community. So that could come in the form of a number of different ways, and obviously we would work with the panel to set the remit that they could work through. If it was determined that an awards program was the best way, that would need to be independently run by council. There may be different criteria to that than what community groups run. It may be some towns do run community awards. If they continue to hold celebrations on January 26, it may be that some others don't. So I think the best port of call would be for a independent process to come from council, subject to whatever the community panel comes up with how best we recognise our volunteers, and to ensure that process is run within any guidelines that are developed for that individual program.
Are there any further questions or clarification? Director Tingay, I had one which was around, I note in the report you mentioned that the Ngambie Australia Day Committee applied directly to the who are they called? Thank you. That group, and received a grant of $20,000 to deliver their event this year. With the groups that currently exist through council, is that is each group equivalent? Are they able to get that amount through the council? Is each town able to get $20,000 through the council in the current arrangements, or is that something that is? If you could just clarify how that works.
Thank you, Mayor Binks. Yeah, my understanding is the National Australia Day Council have grants of up to $20,000, so it would be on the proviso of the individual application that would be submitted to to the council on the individual projects and programs that they're looking to run.
Thank you for that clarification. Are there any further questions or clarification? No? Okay. Mark Tame would like to address the council. If you'd like to come forward, Mark, and if you can turn on your microphone. You have 5 minutes to make your presentation. Councillors can ask you questions of clarification but cannot enter into debate.
Right, firstly, I'm a member of the Strathbogie Australia Day Council. I have concerns about not moving Australia Day forward the way we have been in the past. I want to keep it as it is. There's a number of reasons for that. I think the Taungurunga misinformed. I had the luxury or the honour of reading Captain Cook's journal in 1988, and a magnificent man. And unfortunately, there's been a lot of misinformation about the history of Botany Bay. And that's colouring a lot of the current arguments and so-called mourning on Australia Day. Also, I would say that my experience in the community, we had a very successful Australia Day. I think, thank you for coming, Madam Mayor and Mr Councillor Rayburn. The same with Inyaroa. We also need a mechanism to support people in our community that have given and to recognise it. It's another thing that did concern me is that I have information that the Taungurunga were already informed prior to this meeting, which my understanding is deciding whether Australia Day will continue in its present form, as they already informed that council will not be keeping Australia Day as is. I think that's a governance matter. I'm concerned about that. Perhaps you can answer. So as a wrap up, first of all, I believe there needs to be further consultation. So I'd ask if you either decide, I'd hope you decide to keep things as they are tonight. If you do not, I would very much put to you that further consultation is needed before you make a further decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. I'll just get you to stay there to see if there's any questions of clarification.
And as an aside, I've actually worked with Aboriginal.
That's fine. Your question around, so just to clarify, the CEO is happy to answer your question regarding Taungurunga Land and Waters Council?
Yep.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Just to have it on the record that officers have advised the Taungurunga Land and Water Council that this matter is being considered by council.
Yep.
Nothing more. The decision has not been made.
That's what I want to hear.
And I believe that the same advice was provided to each of the Australia Day committees, so everyone...
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or clarification for Mark? Councillor Murray?
Can I ask just a question of clarification from the director
Certainly.
at this stage? Can I just clarify that this recommendation that officers have made does not preclude local Australia Day committees from a decision about their own community awards? Is that correct?
Yes, through you, Mayor Binks. Yes, that is correct. In addition to... included in the recommendation in dot point 6, it's around that note that Australia Day committees may continue arrangements as they determine and seek funding directly from the National Australia Day Council. So committees, depending on what council does resolve, committees may continue to undertake existing arrangements as they are. It's just that there would be no formal council involvement.
Thank you, Director Tingay. Thank you, Mark. You can return to your seat. Thank you for coming in and for your question this evening. I also have a letter lodged by Rob Jamieson of Ruffy, and he's asked me to read this to you on his behalf as he cannot be here this evening. Dear councillors, acknowledgement of January 26, 24 and beyond. I write to you today to express my concern centred around motion 11.2.4 on the council meeting agenda for the council meeting scheduled for Tuesday 16th of May 2023. A community engagement process was undertaken commencing on May 23 to 20 June 2022. It appears, however, to be a relatively short consultation period of 20 business days, June's Queen birthday not included. Council has stated that engagement program and extensive communication campaign was undertaken to ensure Shire residents knew the council was seeking their feedback. It is difficult to understand how the council could have engaged the community and provided extensive communication in this short time period. Note that council only made the decision to undertake this process on Tuesday, the 17th of May 2022. To have developed and undertaken to roll out an extensive communication program to the community the following Monday is questionable. Note that the engagement period was concluded on the 20th of June. A report delivered to council at an extraordinary meeting held on the 28th of June 2022. This was a very fast turnaround time to conclude outcomes from a very extensive and complex consultation and communication with the community. From this extraordinary meeting, the council resolved, note that the community feedback as outlined in the community engagement report and continue to celebrate January 26 in 2023 as per existing arrangements. The outcome of this consultation was that, and quote, the council officer was varied and there was no clear mandate for change nor strong determination to retain the existing arrangements. It is difficult to comprehend that this would be the outcome expected from an engagement program involving an extensive communication campaign undertaken to ensure Shire residents knew the council was seeking their feedback. A conclusion could be drawn that the consultation process failed to engage the community, resulting in an inconclusive outcome. I make reference to the statement made by council that varied and there was no clear mandate for change nor a strong determination to retain the existing arrangements. I'm certain that this inconclusive outcome was not expected by council. It is therefore important to emphasise that the decision being made here is very important, an historical decision for both First Nations people and wider Strathbogie community. This decision, if made in haste without a successful engagement and consultation process, will result in an extremely divisive outcome, damaging the fabric of our community. Please acknowledge that this council's consultative process was at the end of a very challenging period associated with COVID. Community has struggled to re-engage. I would suspect that this has impacted the council's consultative process and has contributed to the inconclusive outcome. I request that council delay a decision on their role in the acknowledging of January 26, I think he's meant to write 2024 because he's written 2004, 2024 and beyond, and adopt option 2 as detailed on the council meeting agenda. I disagree with the officer's recommendation on option 2, in particular to the suggestion that the community sentiment is likely to remain unchanged, is taking disturbing liabilities to suggest that to undertake further consultation and expect the same outcome as previously indicates some serious limitations of the council's ability to engage the community. I fully support the undertaking of an independently facilitated workshop process with the level of engagement set to involve to determine a recommendation for council's role in Australia Day for 2024 and beyond. That's it. Finished. Thank you, Rob, for your submissions. Are there any further questions of clarification? If not, councillors, can I have a motion, please? And can you state what your motion is? Councillor Hayes-Burke.
Thank you. Can I please move the motion on page 30 of the agenda?
Thank you.
31, sorry.
Thank you, Councillor Hayes-Burke. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Murray. Thank you, Councillor Murray. Would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor Hayes-Burke?
Thank you, Mayor. This report's been a long time coming and I'm grateful to officers for bringing it back to council. Some in the room have presented one view, but there is another side to history. I hope that council can show leadership and support this recommendation tonight. Since the last time the issue of the 26th of Jan was raised in this chamber, Taungurung Land and Water Council have released a statement which is very strong. After reading their statement that clearly asks us as a partner not to participate in any activities associated with the 26th of January and to consider deeply the views of Taungurung Nation and the actual need to continue celebrating a day which continues to isolate and segregate the Taungurung people on their own country. I can't for the life of me see a justification for celebrating a day that causes members of our Shire so much pain. We already knew this, but now we have it in writing, and our duty as councillors is to show leadership and honour the MOU that we have with Tangerang Land and Water Council and for promoting inclusion and equality in the community. Our duty as councillors is to support the Charter of Human Rights that states that all members of the community have a right to participate. Our duty as councillors is to enact the community vision that the community has asked us to achieve and that talks about caring for First Nations people and inclusiveness. Our duty as councillors is not to support actions or spend ratepayers' money on activities that isolate and segregate members of our Shire. I believe celebrating volunteers and citizens away from this day is also much more inclusive. I know many people in the Shire who won't nominate people or who wouldn't want to be nominated for an award associated with the 26th of January because of what it represents. Celebrating volunteers and the good work of the community is very important to Council, and I'm sure that the panel will come up with a solution for celebrating volunteers that does not preclude anyone actually, from participating. So I hope you'll support this recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Hayes-Burke. Councillor Murray, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I'd like to support this recommendation for slightly different reasons, I suppose, than Councillor Hayes-Burke has mentioned. And that is because I recognise that this is a very divisive issue across our Shire, and that there are good people who have quite different views, divergent views about this matter. And I would remind people that, Australia Day is a social construct, around a particular date. It's something that we've come up with recently to put together around January the 26th. And different communities across our Shire have different ways of, or different attitudes towards this particular day. Some communities are strongly in favour of this particular day and for celebrating Australia Day, whatever that means to some communities, and it means different things to different people. And other parts of our community have other ways of celebrating that day and believe other things. I don't really think that it's our job to tell each of our communities how they should celebrate or commemorate that particular day, or whether they should celebrate or commemorate for that matter. I have my own view about that day and about it being inclusive, and that it should be inclusive and that it should be to cater for the diversity of our communities. And I suppose that's really what I'm on about in terms of my view, is we need to cater for the diversity of our Shire and not tell people what to do, but to support them in having their own conversation about this issue in some way, with respect for all people's views. And that's really why I'd also like to suggest that we ought to be we ought to have a community grants review, or in our community grants review, we ought to include a particular grant category for 2023-24 that will enable community groups to engage a suitably qualified facilitator to help them in their discussion about that particular day and what it means for members of their community. And I would like to ask officers to consider the practicalities of this as part of our 2023-24 community grant guidelines for council's consideration. So really my argument is really that we ought to step back from this particular issue, not direct communities what they should or should not do on this particular day, but to support them in making their own decision about the best way forward, taking into account the diversity of views that we have and trying to be as inclusive as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Would any councillor like to speak against the motion? Councillor Hourigan.
Thank you, Mayor Binks. Today, I would like to speak in favour of Strathbogie Shire's continued involvement in the formalities of Australia Day and against this recommendation. This nationally recognised day, accompanied by a public holiday, holds immense significance for our country. It is a federal decision with a federal significance, and I do want to start that, in my opinion, this is not the remit of local government, however, since it's tabled. Australia Day is a day of national pride and unity. It allows us to come together as a nation, celebrating our shared values, achievements, and the vibrant diversity that makes us who we are. By actively participating in this day, we demonstrate our commitment to recognising and honouring the special people within our community who have made significant contributions. On Australia Day 2023, I was warmly invited by the Euroa community to participate and speak on Australia Day 2023. I think it's important that I share with you just a small part of my speech, which included the following statement. We are all part of the story of Australia, from those whose ancestors walked on country for tens of thousands of years, to those who came in waves of migration that followed on, to our newest citizens we continue to welcome. Let's celebrate being part of a proud, ancient and multicultural nation that values the contribution of each and every citizen with a focus on being united and not divided. It is imperative that we recognise the importance of this day, and by ensuring our community member awards are acknowledged alongside the rest of the nation, rather than being moved to an alternative week where the contributions may go unnoticed. I do also recognise that the day is not a celebration for some, and I recognise and acknowledge the statement by the Taungurung Land and Water Council, and that is why I would like to make an alternate recommendation should this recommendation not proceed. It will talk about authorising officers to engage with the relevant registered Aboriginal parties for the development of a suitable Shire-wide program for truth-telling and bring back a report to Council with a proposed program including the costs. Mayor, by actively pursuing the development of a suitable Shire-wide program for truth-telling, we can create an environment where meaningful conversations about our shared history and the experiences of Indigenous Australians can take place. This initiative will contribute to the fostering a more inclusive and understanding community. Sorry, I can hear you talking. Do you want me to stop? No. Promoting unity and respect, which could lead to a deeper understanding about the date, in particular, January 26. This recommendation table does not do this, therefore I have my concerns. Our community members deserve to be acknowledged on Australia Day alongside their fellow Australians from all corners of the country. It is a day that provides a unique opportunity for individuals within our community to be recognised for their hard work.
Councillor Horgan, can you wrap up your debate, because you need to focus on the motion we have in front of us, not the one you're foreshadowing.
Sure.
Thank you.
Just including it into my debate. And the outstanding achievements. Sorry, I might start that one again. Our community members deserve to be acknowledged on Australia Day alongside their fellow Australians from all corners of the country. It is a day that provides a unique opportunity for individuals within our community to be recognised for their hard work, dedication and outstanding achievements. Denying them this recognition by moving it to another week diminishes the significance of their contributions and denies them the sense of pride and belonging they rightly deserve. Moreover, our community has spoken. The last engagement conducted with our constituents indicated their desire for local government to maintain its involvement in Australia Day formalities. Their voices cannot be ignored as they have expressed their support for our continued participation. The re-establishing of the Australia Day Committee in Strathbogie further reinforces the community's strong desire to uphold the traditions and celebrations associated with this important national day. Our community's desire for continued involvement and expressed in the last engagement and the establishment of the new Australia Day Committee in Strathbogie attests to the importance placed on this occasion. So I urge my fellow councillors to continue our current arrangements for the nationally recognised Australia Day if they choose not to engage further with our community.
Thank you, Councillor Horgan. Would any other councillor like to speak for the motion? Councillor Andrews?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just very quickly, I've heard what my fellow councillors have said, and it shows what a shifting landscape this particular day is. For the council to take a neutral position, I don't think it's unreasonable in the current state of affairs. It is a federal government issue until they make a decree which way we go with it. I think if the council, as I say, takes a neutral position, it says it will support various communities not in kind, but certainly to go about their business as far as they see fit. And it also acknowledges the Taungurung people's response. So I I support this recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Andrews. Would any councillor like to speak against the motion? For the motion? Thank you, Councillor Dickinson.
Thank you, Mayor. I think it was 11 months ago that we sat here and the gallery was full and there was a lot of emotion, pretty charged, a lot of speakers. It seems a very different night tonight. And I think two things have happened in the last 11 months when we spoke on this, and I spoke very strongly, my own thoughts on it, and that was to continue it for 12 months. Well, that period is here now, and the community have had an opportunity to put forward their thoughts, and I believe they've been encouraged to do that. 11 months ago, the Tongarong Land and Waters people didn't really give us very much to go on, and that's changed. They've now submitted a written document in writing that they oppose celebrating January 26 and would not support it, and they've also asked for council support. And under our MOU, I believe that we are in a position to be able to do this. Very different to the way I thought 12 months ago, 11 months ago. The federal government, whilst avoiding its own responsibility, shame on them, are no longer punishing shires who do support the non-celebration of January 26. So there's been some movement there also. So, yeah, I've changed my view and I do support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dickinson. Would any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Rayburn.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate the opportunity to speak on this. I'm in favour of this motion. As of last year, I was not, and I was exact words of Councillor Dickinson's just stated. I didn't then have the information from the Tongarong Land and Water Council, which was one of the issues that I was really adamant about, that I didn't have any understanding of what they were talking to us about, as the Mayor at the time has signed the MOU. But now I do. I now have a full understanding of what the MOU and what the Tongarong people are asking. We're not destroying Australia Day. We're not getting rid of Australia Day. All we're doing is the Council of Strathbogie Shire not being part of Australia Day. We're not stopping anyone else in our community from celebrating Australia Day. And that's what it is.
Thank you, Councillor Rayburn. Councillor Hayes-Burke, would you like your right of reply?
Thanks. Thanks for your comments, Councillor Hourigan, and for the other councillors. But this actually is in the remit of local government, hence why we are involved in it. I'm sorry, but this day is decisive and we cannot hide from that. We're definitely not telling communities that they cannot celebrate on the 26th of Jan, as Councillor Rayburn pointed out. I'm all for honouring volunteers, and I think that that can be done in a way that does not alienate members of our community. I do like your idea of having truth-telling forums, and I think that's essential. I think it needs to happen in all communities, but I don't think it's fair to put that burden on registered Aboriginal parties because council is too afraid to make a decision about the 26th of Jan, and that's what we're here to discuss tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hayes-Burke. Councillors, I will now put the motion to the vote. Can I show of hands for all those in favour, please? And against? And I declare that carried. Thank you, councillors.
Please call a division.
Yes, you may, Councillor Hayes-Burke. Can I see a show of hands for those in favour, please? Councillor Rayburn, Councillor Hayes-Burke, Councillor Andrews, Councillor Dickinson, Councillor Murray and Councillor Binks, and against Councillor Hourigan. Thank you, councillors. Thank you, councillors. And if members of the gallery that were here for that particular item would like to leave, you're more than welcome to. You're also very welcome to continue to stay with us for the rest of the evening. I now move to page 40 of the agenda, item 11.2.5, Waterways Management, Goulburn River from Hughes Creek to Goulburn Weir, including Lake Nagambie, funding advocacy to inform Council's role. Director Tingay, may we have a summary of the report, please?
Thank you, Mayor Binks. For many years, Strathbogie Shire Council has been appointed as Waterway Manager under the Marine Act 1988 for the Goulburn River from Hughes Creek to Goulburn Weir, including Lake Nagambie. Council's appointment continues until such time as the gazetted Waterway Manager advises Safe Transport Victoria that it no longer wishes to perform this role. Over the years, the cost of delivering the waterways function has continued to grow. Waterway managers do not receive any income from the state government for performing the role. In addition, council does not receive any financial income from any infringement notice that is given on the waterways. Any revenue generated goes directly to the relevant state government department. It is estimated that a total cost of providing the waterways management function, including on-water patrols, water-related remedial works, administration, governance, event application support, advertising communications, and resourcing to the Waterways Advisory Committee, is approximately between $150,000 to $200,000 annually, once again with no ability to generate any income. Officers within the report have examined 4 options in relation to this matter. It is recommended that option 4 be considered by council. Option 4 considers the need to advocate to the state government for full funding to support this role. If full funding is not achieved by the 31st of August 2023, it's also recommended that council receive a report in the September meeting cycle to either withdraw the service effective 1 October 2023 or consider options to remain as the Waterway Manager, which would require the allocation of funding to investigate and identify a sustainable business model, including but not limited to recouping and offsetting service costs. There has been a number of individual conversations held with key stakeholders regarding this matter, including Safe Transport Victoria, Goulburn Murray Water and the Waterways Committee. A summary of this engagement is listed in the community engagement section of this report. There is a recommendation for our advocacy on page 41 of the agenda for council's consideration. Thank you, Mayor Binks.
Thank you, Director Tingay. Councillors, are there any questions or clarification for the officer on this item? Councillor Haysbrook.
Thank you, Director. What would happen if council did decide to withdraw management of the waterways? Would the waterways continue to be managed?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Binks. Yes, Councillor Haysbrook. So the management would be the responsibility of Safe Transport Victoria, and it would be up to them to manage as they see fit. It would continue to be regulated by the relevant authorities regardless.
Thank you, Director Tingay. Are there any further questions or clarification? I have a comment from Alistair Purbrick, Waterways Committee member. He's asked me to read this comment as he is unable to attend tonight's meeting. So Alistair Purbrick says, I'm disappointed that I can't attend the council meeting on the 16th of May 2023 to put forward my views on the importance of council continuing as the Waterways Manager, which was also agreed by the committee at our last meeting. I'm concerned that council may be rushing this decision without doing appropriate due diligence with the waterways user stakeholders, including Goulburn Murray Water, Goulburn Valley Water and Goulburn Broken Catchment Management Authority, and investigating how the waterways management costs to council approximately $150,000 per year can be completely offset by the stakeholders and commercial operators. If council has not been able to complete meetings with all waterway users Waterways user stakeholders, including how the cost to manage the waterways can be offset, I would strongly recommend to councillors that this decision be deferred until all consultations have been completed rather than rushing a decision which may be regretted later. It should be noted that if the decision is made whether to be on the 16th of May or at some future date, not to continue as a waterway manager, there is a real possibility that the waterways will be poorly managed by another third party who doesn't have a vested interest in the health or commercial viability of the waterways, which will result in a negative impact on the environment, tourism and local economy. Thank you, Alistair, for your comment. If there are any further questions of clarification regarding that comment of the officer, Councillor Rayburn?
Yes, Director, through the comments of former Councillor Perwick, I'm just curious in saying that we have consultation with, be able to, recoup our finances from other stakeholders. Would that be an opportunity, or is that something already being looked at?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Binks. Thank you, Councillor Rayburn. That would something that would need to be investigated. And that really falls in line with the dot point in the recommendation. If full funding can't be achieved, then we need to really take a look at ways to be able to investigate and identify a sustainable model. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Tingay and Councillor Rayburn. If there are no further questions or clarification, can I have a motion, please, and can you state what your motion is? Councillor Dickinson. Thank you, Councillor Dickinson.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move the motion as stated on page 41.
Thank you, Councillor Dickinson. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Andrews. Thank you, Councillor Andrews. Would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor Dickinson?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, this is a tough one, and I've been attending these meetings for 2.5 years now, and the committee itself is hopeful that we don't vote in favour of this motion, but I'm sorry, but I believe we must. This is a cost of $150,000 to our ratepayers without any foreseeable way of recouping this money. If there are ways, I haven't heard of them. We're not. We're a bit of a toothless tiger on this Waterways Committee. We employ or we have contracted out to a company that carries out regular inspections, cruises the waterways, but has no power to book anyone, and that organisation costs us more than $70,000. This motion also doesn't shut off everything. If you look at point 3, it states that from the 1st of October, we consider options to remain as a waterways manager, which would require the allocation of funding to investigate and identify a sustainable model, including but not limited to recouping or offsetting service costs. Now, we're not locked into, just by, if we vote this motion in, we're not locked into anything. We can look at this again in a couple of months' time. And for that reason, it does give us some breathing space. And whilst Alistair and other people are asking for time, I think that the third point does allow for that time.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Councillor Dickinson. Councillor Andrews, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. I hear what Councillor Dixon has said, and point 3 does leave the door open as far as dealing with the waterways management. I believe the position the council are taking at this stage is, as per the recommendation, is a responsible and a realistic one. So moving, and it gives us a way to move forward with either getting properly funded or speaking to the authorities about that. So,
Thank you, Councillor Andrews. Would any councillor like to speak against the motion? Would any other councillor like to speak for the motion? Councillor Horrigan, sorry.
Sure, Mayor. I'm speaking to this unprepared in this particular time, but just based off it. We've been hearing a lot about cost shifting lately, and I am hoping that in regards to this recommendation, should it pass tonight, that we get a response to this so that we can, so our community aren't feeling uneasy and we aren't getting the letter that we got wrote in today. So I would just really like to highlight that I hope that we can get a response so that we can resolve it together as a team, rather than having to go down the end in September possibly and remove ourselves from it. So I suppose I'm just calling on the people mentioning the recommendation to respond positively. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Horrigan. Councillor Rayburn. Sure.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. I completely agree with Councillor Dickinson on this issue. And the one thing that I always, with the Waterways, has always fascinated me is why we do it. We're a council looking after roads, rates and rubbish. Now we're getting into waterways, and then we're getting into something else. And when we're getting into something else, I think we have to go back to our basic, what local government is about. And that's looking after community, but on something where we get a return if we do it from. And because we manage this waterway, we get absolutely nothing back. As Councillor Dickens said, we're a toothless tiger. We get nothing back. We have no real power to offer any fines or anything. All we do is just wander around the waterway saying hello.
Thank you, Councillor Rayburn. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Would you like your right or reply, Councillor Dickinson?
Just one more point. I do recognise that it is a great tourist attraction, and it does bring a lot of people to not just the town but to the area. And so I'm not totally closed off on this. I'm wanting to hear from people, and they now have the opportunity to put forward their point of view. Let's hear what the residents have got to say, and let's hear back from the Waterways Committee.
Thank you, Councillor Dickinson. Councillors, I'll now put the motion to a vote. Can I see a show of hands for all those in favour, please? And against? And I declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. I will now move to page 50 of the agenda, item 11.2.6, Community Art Project, Pitch My Project. Director Tingay, may we have a summary of this report, please?
Thank you, Mayor Binks. A $20,000 commitment was made in the 22-23 budget through a successful Pitch My Project initiative for a piece of public art in the form of a sculpture to be located in Euroa. Following an expression of interest process that was undertaken in March, we called for artists to submit a concept for this project. Council officers shortlisted the concepts that were in line with Council's public art policy. In line with the policy, community voting on the 5 concepts via the Share Strathbogie platform were undertaken, and following that public voting process, the Australian magpie received the most votes. It is recommended that Tank and Tobin create and install the Australian magpie in the Seven Creeks parkland, utilising the $20,000 allocated in the 22-23 council budget for this purpose. There is a recommendation on page 50 of the agenda for council's consideration. Thank you, Mayor Binks.
Thank you, Director Tingay. Councillors, are there any questions or clarification for the officer regarding this item? If not, councillors, can I have a question? Can I have a motion, please? And can you state what your motion is? Councillor Haysberg.
Could I please move the recommendation on page 50? Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Hayes-Burke. Can I have a seconder for the motion, please? Councillor Hourigan. Would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor Hayes-Burke?
I'd just like to congratulate Tank and Tobin for being the people's choice with their magpie. And also thanks to the community for voting. It was really important for council to involve the community in the decision making on this one. So we left it in the community's hands. And I look forward to seeing more public art throughout the Shire with our public art policy.
Thank you, Councillor Hayes-Burke. Councillor Hourigan, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor Binks. I'd like to express my gratitude to the community for their valuable input and active participation in the Pitch My Project initiative. We had a number of different artworks and it would have been extremely hard for our community members to pick, but the magpie did come through, which I don't know if it's going to be related to the football club for your Royal Magpies, but it's there. Witnessing the passion and enthusiasm from the community members has been truly inspiring. But I think it's important that I acknowledge the hard work and dedication that our council officers who diligently worked through the challenges that arose, including the identification of some of the inadequate voting online. And despite these obstacles, they remained committed to ensuring a fair and transparent process. So I think it's very important that that I speak to that tonight, because it was difficult at times with all the different types of voting you could do. So once again, thank you to the community for the active participation and to the council officers.
Thank you, Councillor Hourigan. Would any councillor like to speak against the motion or for the motion? No. Councillors, if there's no one else wishing to speak to the motion, I shall put the motion to the vote. Can I see a show of hands for all those in favour and against? And I declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. We now move to page 56 of the agenda, item 11.2.7, Rural Australians for Refugees, Shepparton and North East Victoria Afghan Community Sponsorship Proposal. Director Tingay, may we have a summary of this report, please?
Thank you, Mayor Binks. Council has received a written request from the Rural Australian for Refugees, Strathbogie Shire, to support an Indi-wide project to sponsor skilled Afghan refugees with humanitarian visas to settle in northeast Victoria. The project is titled Shepparton and Northeast Victoria Afghan Community Sponsorship Proposal. The support requested is in the form of a letter of support from Council so that Rural Australians for Refugees can progress a request to the federal government via the federal member for Indi, Dr. Helen Haynes, and Bruce MP Julian Hill. By its endorsement, the Strathbogie Shire Council will strengthen the proposal in its presentation to government. RAR is not seeking any financial support. Consistent with Council's declaration to be a refugee welcome zone in 2017, it is recommended that Council provide a letter of support for the proposal. There is a recommendation on page 56 of the agenda for Council's consideration. Thank you, Mayor Binks.
Thank you, Director Tingay. Councillors, are there any questions or clarification for the officer on this item? No, if not, councillors, can I have a motion, please, and can you state what your motion is? Councillor Hayes-Burke.
I'd like to move the recommendation on page 56. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hayes-Burke. Is there a seconder? Councillor Rayburn. Thank you, Councillor Rayburn. Would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor Hayes-Burke?
Thanks, Mayor. I'm pleased that we as a council might be able to strengthen this submission to government. I hope that this program is successfully encouraging Afghan families to the region. And I'd like to also thank the Rural Australians for Refugees Strathbogie for bringing this to our attention. And I encourage my fellow councillors to support this recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Hayes-Burke. Councillor Rayburn, would you like to speak to the motion? Would any other councillor like to speak against the motion or for the motion? In that case, councillors, I'll put the motion to a vote. Can I see a show of hands for all those in favour, please? And against, and declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. Now moving to item 11.3.1, page 61 of the agenda, contracts and works awarded under delegation. CEO Salomon, may we have a summary of the report, please?
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. This report is our monthly report, which just advises councillors and the community of tenders that have been awarded under delegation, but within the approved 2022-23 budget. For your information, there is a recommendation on page 61 for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO Solomon. Councillors, are there any questions or clarification regarding this report of the officer? No? Okay, councillors, can I have a motion, please? And can you state what your motion is? Councillor Rayburn.
Thank you, Mayor. And through you, Mayor, I'd like to move the recommendation as printed on page 61 be adopted by Council.
Thank you, Councillor Rayburn. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Murray. Thank you, Councillor Murray. Would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor Rayburn?
That's okay. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Councillor Rayburn. Councillor Murray, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to say I'm really excited to see this active and connected cycling and walking strategy underway. I think it's a great, it'll be a great thing for the Shire to have some sort of strategy there developed for both cycling and walking. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Haysbert.
I'd also like to express my gratitude for this active and connected cycling strategy. As you know, I cycle around everywhere, so it's really, I'm very passionate about this, and it's also part of our climate action plan. So it's great to see it underway.
Great. Thank you, Councillor Haysbert. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Nope. Okay, councillors, I'll put the motion to a vote. Can I see a show of hands? All those in favour and against, and declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. I'm now moving on to page 65 and item 11.4.1, Finance Report to the 31st of March 2023. Acting Director Underhill, may we have a summary of the report, please?
Thank you, Mayor Binks. The March financial report compares the year-to-date mid-year adopted budget to the actual financial position of March 2023. The report contains the operational performance, income statement, balance sheet, cash flow statement, and capital performance and other financial data in graphical format. The current year operating surplus for the 9 months period ending 31st of March was $6,673,287. As at 31st of March 2023, the total expenditure on capital works was $8,136,338, which excludes committed expenditure. You'll find a recommendation on page 65 of the agenda.
Thank you, Acting Director Underhill. Councillors, are there any questions or clarification for the officer on this matter? If not, can I have a motion, please, and can you state what your motion is? Councillor Hourigan.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move the recommendation as written on page 65 of the agenda, which says that Council receive and note the financial report and financial statements for the 9 months ending 31st of March 2023.
Thank you, Councillor Hourigan. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Murray. Thank you, Councillor Murray. Would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor Hourigan? Would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor Murray? Would any councillor like to speak to the motion? No. Okay, councillors, I'll put the motion to a vote. Can I see a show of hands? All those in favour, please. Against, and declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. Moving on to page 70, item 11.5.1, monthly performance report. Acting Director Underhill, may we have a summary of the report, please?
Thank you, Mayor Binks. The May 2023 monthly performance report includes reports as follows. Building Department, April 2023 statistics. Planning Department, planning application approvals, development cost, capital improved value, April 2023. Customer inquiry analysis report for April 2023. Waste management reporting, year to date, April 2023. Transfer station date, April 2023, actioning of council reports resolutions, extraordinary council meeting Tuesday, April 11th, 2023, and council meeting Tuesday, April 18th, 2023. Outstanding actions of council resolutions to April 30, 2023, review of council policies and adoption of new policies, April-May 2023. Records of informal council briefings, meetings, 1 to 30 April 2023. By reporting on a monthly basis, council can effectively manage any risks that may arise. The business management system will also incorporate council's corporate goals and objectives. You'll find a recommendation on page 70.
Thank you, Acting Director Underhill. Councillors, are there any questions or clarification for the Director on this item? Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Mayor. Could I ask a question about the graph on page 76, remaining requests by original request date? I note that there is quite a lot of remaining requests for November 2022. Can I get some clarification of that issue there?
Thank you, Councillor Murray. And we may need to take this on notice, but I'll hand over to the CEO. Just
Yes, look, thank you through you, Mayor. I will need to take that one on notice, so we will come back to councillors on that information. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO Salomon. If there are no further questions of clarification, councillors, can I have a motion, please? And can you state what your motion is? Councillor Hayes-Burke.
I move a motion that the report be noted.
Thank you, Councillor Hayes-Burke. If there's a seconder for the motion, Councillor Murray. Thank you, Councillor Murray. Did you want to speak to the motion, Councillor Hayes-Burke?
Thanks. Thanks to the officers for all the hard work that's reflected in this report. I note that the planning applications are very high for the Mount Wombat ward, and maybe that's a reflection of people moving for the rural lifestyle change, because I don't think we've seen such high planning applications for that particular ward. And it's also good to see that the curbside diversion rate has dramatically increased, which I'm always glad to see because it went down last month. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hayes-Burke. Are there, Councillor Murray, would you like to speak to the motion?
Just to reiterate the thanks to council officers for all their hard work. This obviously shows, whilst I did ask a question about the November 22, I'd probably guess that that's to do with the flood situation and the post-flood requests that we received. I do note that December and January of this year, they dropped again as we got on top of some of those issues. So I look forward to hearing how we're going with the November ones. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Would any other councillor like to speak to the item? No? Okay, councillors, I shall put the motion to a vote, and can I see a show of hands for all those in favour, please? And against? And declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. I will now move to page 90 of the agenda, and Councillor Rayburn has declared a conflict of interest in the following items. So Councillor Rayburn is leaving the meeting at the doors feel slower every time. 8:17 p.m. So we're on to item 11.6.1, Councillor Expense request to attend the Municipal Association of Victoria Rural and Regional Planning Conference in Marysville, Victoria from the 1st to the 2nd of June 2023. Councillor Chris Rayburn, CEO Salomon, may we have a summary of the report, please?
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. This request is from Councillor Rayburn to attend the Municipal Association of Victoria Rural and Regional Planning Conference. The event provides a councillor and officer development and training opportunity that provides practical and more in-depth understanding of planning and planning matters. The conference is highly valued knowledge sharing and networking opportunity, and this report seeks to pay an additional $869.82 above Councillor Rayburn's allowance. To date, he has utilised $1,024 of his $1,500 allowance. There is a resolution for your motion for consideration on page 90 of this agenda. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, CEO Solomon. Councillors, are there any questions of clarification for the CEO on this item?
I think the CEO might have made a mistake. I think it's only $393 above the allowance, not $800. Anyway, just in the report it states.
Yes, you're correct.
Just to clarify that. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Haysbert. Thank you for that clarification. Were there any further questions or clarification? If not, councillors, can I have a motion, please, and can you state what your motion is? Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Mayor. Can I move the motion as listed on page 90 of the agenda?
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Hayes-Burke. Thank you, Councillor Hayes-Burke. Would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor Murray?
Thank you, Mayor. As an attendee of last year's MAV conference on regional planning and so on, I can attest to the value of this particular conference. It really it was a terrific experience for both myself and Councillor Hourigan, who attended. Some of the issues there about dealing with climate change and response to disaster and planning, which I think is important, working with traditional owners, I think, which we have an MOU with, and a good opportunity to hear how other councils are going. There's a bit about rural housing, and I think that's an important issue for our communities right across the Shire, and also about renewable energy, which is a topic of some discussion within both Euroa and Avenel in particular, I know of at the moment. So no doubt Councillor Rayburn can bring some attention to that, and also the impact of ongoing planning reform, which we're doing quite a bit in that space at the moment. So it'll be really relevant to our Shire, and I think it's a good opportunity to advance our knowledge.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Councillor Hayes-Burke, would you like to speak to the motion? No. Would any other councillor like to speak for or against the motion? No. Okay, councillors, I shall put the motion to vote. Can I see a show of hands? All those in favour? Against, and declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. And Councillor Rayburn has a conflict of interest on this item as well, so we'll keep him out of the room. And we now move to page 96 of the agenda, item 11.6.2, Councillor expense request to attend the Keeping Australia Beautiful National Tidy Towns Sustainability Awards 2023, 18th to 20th of May on King Island. Councillor Chris Rayburn, CEO Solomon, may we have a summary of the report, please? Oh, sorry. Executive Manager Favaloro, may we have a summary of the report, please?
You may. Thank you, Mayor. So the Keeping Australia Beautiful National Association is hosting the National Tidy Towns Sustainability Awards on May 19th this year in King Island. As the 2022 Victorian State winner, Euroa is a finalist for the National Tidy Town Sustainability Awards. The awards are designed to promote ecotourism and to encourage, motivate and celebrate the sustainability achievements of grassroots, rural and regional communities across Australia. Due to conflicting commitments, our Mayor, Laura Binks, is unable to attend this awards ceremony, and Councillor Chris Rayburn has expressed an interest to attend. As per the Council expenses policy, which was adopted in October 2022, each Strathbogie Shire councillor has a training and conference allowance of up to $1,500 each financial year. And as we've heard tonight, Councillor Rayburn is above that threshold, and a report is required for a council resolution. So councillors, there is a recommendation for you on page 96 and 97 of tonight's agenda.
Thank you for that report, Executive Manager Favaloro. Are there any questions of clarification for the officer, councillors? No? Okay, councillors, can I have a motion, please, and can you state what your motion is? Councillor Andrews.
Thank you, Mayor. I recommend I move that the recommendation on page 96 and 97 of the agenda be adopted.
Thank you, Councillor Andrews. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Hayes-Burke. Thank you, Councillor Hayes-Burke. Would you like to speak the motion, Councillor Andrews?
Thank you, Mayor. Euroa is the winner of the 2022 Keep Australia Beautiful Victorian Sustainability Community Tidy Town Award. Now, like a few people I've spoken to, I thought Tidy Towns Awards were about picking up roadside rubbish and doing the right thing, but I couldn't have been more wrong. The award actually is quite extensive. The categories include waste reduction, recycling and repurposing materials, preserving our heritage and culture for current and future generations, supporting our youth towards becoming responsible citizens and getting employment, looking after our natural environment, supporting community health and wellbeing. And for Euroa, and therefore Strathbogie Shire, to stand out in all these areas is a great achievement. And Euroa, the council and the whole Shire should be rightly proud. And this has far-reaching effects and benefits for our region as well, not only tourism, but it shows the state's a very appealing proposition for living and working in. So I believe it's important we are well represented at the national awards. Former Mayor Councillor Rayburn is well positioned to represent us in this area. And regardless of the outcome, I think it will be an honour to be a national finalist. So I support the motion and encourage my fellow councillors to do so likewise.
Thank you, Councillor Andrews. Councillor Hayes-Burke, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thanks for your great comments, Councillor Andrews. This is a real honour for the Township of Euroa, and I'm grateful to Councillor Rayburn for putting up his hand to attend because I don't believe it's the easiest place to get to. And he'll also be accompanied by a fabulous volunteer, Ange Berry, who volunteers at Euroa Health. So I'm grateful to her for also going along and hopefully receiving an award. But as you said, it doesn't matter. The outcomes, irrelevant. It's great to be in the running.
Thank you, Councillor Hayes-Burke. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Horrigan.
Thank you. Here, Councillor Andrews. Definitely echo your comments, but I think it's important that I say thank you to the community, as it was a community-led initiative and they've put in a lot of hard work. But I also know that our Mayor, Laura Binks, has put in a lot of work, and it hasn't gone unrecognised. So thank you for doing that in amongst all the other things that you do. I think it's important to appreciate that. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Horrigan. Councillors, I will now put the motion to the vote. Can I see a show of hands for all those in favour, please? And against, and declare that carried. We will invite Councillor Rayburn back into the meeting, and I can confirm that he has returned at 8. We'll say 8:26 p.m. Thank you, Councillor Rayburn. We now move to page 104 of the agenda, item 11.6.3, Municipal Association of Victoria State Council meeting, Friday the 19th of May. CEO Sullivan, may we have a summary of the report, please?
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. The Municipal Association of Victoria is the membership association and legislative peak body for local government in Victoria. Twice a year, MAV hosts what's called State Council, which is MAV's governing body, where members consider and vote on matters before State Council. Council's current MAV representative is the Mayor, Councillor Laura Binks, with the substitute representative being Councillor Chris Rayburn. On Friday, the 19th of May 2023, which is the day of the Municipal Association meeting, State Council meeting, Councillor Laura Binks is attending the Australian Local Government Women's Association National Conference, and as item 11.6.2 has been supported, Councillor Chris Rayburn is representing Council at the 2023 National Tidy Town Awards. Given that all events are scheduled on the same day, Council needs to formally appoint a substitute representative to attend and vote at the special meeting of MAV State Council. So this report seeks council endorsement for Councillor Sally Hayes-Burke to attend and vote at the May meeting of State Council. There is a motion on page 104 for councillors' consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor CEO Solomon. Councillors, are there any questions or clarification of the officer? No? Okay, councillors, can I have a motion, please, and can you state what your motion is? Councillor Rayburn.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you, Mayor, I'd like to move the recommendation as printed on page 104 be adopted by Council.
Thank you, Councillor Rayburn. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Dickinson. Thank you, Councillor Dickinson. Would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor Rayburn?
No, actually, I think it's great that Councillor Hayes-Burke is going to go to this because I've been going to MAV meetings for quite a while, and over the 40 years I've been involved in local government, I've been involved in MAV for quite a bit at that time. So it'd be nice to have new blood in, as they say, going to see how the system works.
Thank you, Councillor Rayburn. Councillor Dickinson, would you like to speak to the motion? No. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion?
I'd just like to say thanks for the opportunity, and I'll do my best to represent the Shire's needs at this special State Council meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Hayes-Burke. Councillors, I will now put the motion to a vote. Can I see a show of hands? All those in favour and against, and declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. I now move to page 107 of our agenda, item 12.1, notice of motion, council meeting Tuesday the 16th of May, request for tailored training and development program for councillors, lodged by Councillor Christy Hourigan and Councillor Paul Murray. And there is a notice of motion before us, which I will take as read. So councillors, can I have a motion, please? And can you state what your motion is? Councillor Hourigan.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to adopt the motion, the recommendation that is on page 107, which is the notice of motion with the 4 points. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hourigan. Is there a seconder for the motion? Thank you, Councillor Murray. Would you like to speak to the motion, Councillor Hourigan?
Can I please ask a few questions?
Oh, certainly, of clarification.
That's all right. To the mover,
certainly,
the author of the motion. Thank you. I'm just for the benefit of the community. So, how do you propose that this particular training will help council?
Thanks, Councillor Hayes-Burke. It will further training in the area of good governance. And recently today, as we've all read, the report from Minister Horn, and it was a recommendation from the Municipal Monitor that further training in good governance was recommended. And that's, hopefully that answers your question.
And then what would you say the benefit to the community will be?
Well, prior to last night's announcement that whilst warmly, Municipal Monitor Peter Stevenson is here, I was hoping to prevent excess costs on the council by nominating further training in good governance. And so I still hope that now that we have been appointed Municipal Monitor, that this training, though, will still promote and benefit our community for good governance for all councillors, and it's also invited for council officers to attend the training.
And so what exactly around good governance do you propose that this particular training will teach?
So some dot points, which is in the notice of motion, talks about the legislative compliance, workplace culture and relationships, delivering the political remit in partnership with council executive team, ethical standards, financial literacy, and anything else that may come to an agreement with us councillors, council officers, and of course now the Municipal Monitor, Peter.
Thanks, Councillor Hourigan.
Thank you, Councillor Hayes-Burke. Did you want to ask a question, clarification of the mover?
Thank you, if I may, through you, Mayor. Just clarification, you've asked us to accept it you've put a person's name there and from the law firm. What expertise and where has he operated before? Why do we believe he will be the benefit for us as a council, and where does he get have the experience that we will get from that?
Thanks, Councillor Rayburn. Andrew Douglas is a leading senior legal practitioner from FCW Lawyers with an impressive 30 plus years of experience across various industries, including local government and good governance. That's included in the NOM. Andrew Douglas has stated that he has worked with many LGAs in good governance. Prior to this NOM being submitted, there was discussion, I think, if I recall, 3 times in council-only time about engaging a trainer since February 18th, and now we're in May, and I just think that it's good timing to put the notice of motion forward recommending someone, which I think is better than no one. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Horrigan. Okay, all questions clarified? Okay, so Councillor Horrigan, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor Binks. I've submitted this notice of motion to emphasise the importance of maintaining good governance and addressing the recommendations that were made by the Municipal Monitor Janet Dawes' report, which was released after her departure from Council in September of 2022. In response to the report, I promptly followed the recommended course of action and I enrolled myself in the MAV Councillor Development Workshop. During the workshop, we had the privilege of hearing from several guest speakers, but one individual stood out to me, and that was Andrew Douglas of FCW Lawyers. With over 30 years of experience in various industries, including local government and good governance, he delivered a compelling presentation on the subject. It inspired and enlightened, and I attended a council meeting on February 18th and enthusiastically shared my thoughts about Andrew's expertise. I expressed my belief that he would be an excellent choice to organise group training for all councillors, as it would effectively address a part of the recommendation of the Municipal Monitor's report. Furthermore, this training initiative not only responds to the Municipal Monitor's report, but it also aligns with the Minister's letter to Council that was on January 16th of 2023, in which the Minister expressed the expectation that Council would take necessary steps to support councillors in performing their roles as mandated by the Act. The Minister also emphasised the importance of councillors committing to improving their performance through opportunities such as training and mentoring. The Minister's letter specifically requested that Council consider the Monitor's report and provide advice by February 28th regarding the actions that it intends to take to address the ongoing issues. So I believe that the motion represents a positive step towards ensuring good governance, and I urge my fellow councillors to please support this proposal, as it will greatly benefit our collective efforts to improve performance and meet the expectations set by both the Municipal Monitor and the Minister. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Horrigan. Councillor Murray, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. Just briefly to reiterate some of the points that Councillor Horrigan made. We were very impressed with this particular speaker at the MAV conference last year. And I remember at the end of it, we sort of thought it would be great to have a further conversation with Andrew Douglas. And I commend my fellow councillor for pursuing this matter, particularly after Janet Dawes made her recommendations that we ought to take up opportunities to further enhance our own professional development as councillors, seeing that many of us are quite new to this job. So I commend this opportunity to my fellow councillors to take this up. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Would anyone like to speak against the motion or for the motion? No? Okay, councillors, I will put the motion to a vote. Can I see a show of hands? All those in favour, please. And against, and declare that carried. Thank you, councillors. I now move to page 109 of the agenda, and due to declaring an interest in this item, Councillor Dickinson is leaving the meeting, and I will note the time. And Councillor Dickinson has left the meeting at 8:38 p.m. So we have item 12.2, notice of motion, council meeting Tuesday the 16th of May 2023, with request for reimbursement for travel expenses and equipment purchase costs incurred for the period from 8th June 2022 to May 4th 2023, lodged by Councillor Reg Dickinson and Councillor Andrews. Notice of motion reference number 05/2023. CEO Solomon, were you able to answer any questions or clarification regarding this item, if there were any?
Thank you, and through you, Mayor, I will endeavour to do my best, but may not be able to answer all of them.
Okay, thank you. Councillors, are there any questions or clarification regarding this notice of motion? Councillor Andrews?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And I just want to know if Councillor Dixon has had any warnings or instances of these late claims previously, please.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor, not that I am aware of.
Thank you, CEO Solomon. Are there any further questions or clarification? Councillor Horrigan?
Sorry, thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to ask a question. In the expense policy that we're talking about in this notice of motion, it talks about if there is a late claim, and I can't find the wording right now, that it is referred to the CEO and the governance officer. And I noticed that this is now referred through a notice of motion. Could you explain why for me?
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. Typically, if claims are late, they're usually just a few weeks here and there. The reason why we've referred this to council is that it actually spans 2 financial years. So it actually is from, excuse me for just reading, from the 8th of the June 2022 through to the current. So because of the length of time, we felt it was best for transparency, and because it's well outside the policy parameters, which was adopted last year, we thought it was best to bring it to council.
Councillor Horrigan's got a subsequent question.
Can I make a point of order? Have we got a motion in front of us? Has there a mover yet?
No.
So we're talking about something that's not a motion yet?
No.
Okay, thank you.
We're getting clarification on the notice of motion that was in the agenda. Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Murray.
Brilliant. Yeah, sorry.
Yes.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Just subsequently, CEO, in the Strathbogie Shire Council expense policy, is there a page number or anything I can refer to that talks about the length of time? I can see in there it talks about that if there is a late expense, it is to go to CEO, but I can't see if there's a length of time, then subsequently it's...
that it should come through this process?
Correct.
I will attempt to answer this one. I don't believe that we've experienced a claim of spanning this length of time, given that, as I said, it's the policy is updated annually and approved by council. So we think it's about accountability and transparency for our community, which is why it's come to council in this form.
Thank you, Councillor Horrigan. Councillor Murray?
Can I ask a question? Is it possible to move an amendment to a notice of motion at this point?
It wouldn't be an amendment, it would be an alternative motion, but I don't...
Well, if there's a mover, then I'd like to move an amendment to...
Foreshadow an amendment?
Yes, I could. I'm happy to foreshadow an amendment if we have a mover in the end.
Thank you for that, Councillor Murray. Councillor Rayburn.
Yeah, just clarification, if I may, just for my own thing. When did we last year actually review the policy? Just for my own clarification.
Thank you for your question, and through you, Mayor. Last year
I have it here if you would like, Acting Director. So it was last updated and adopted by Council on the 18th of October 2022.
So 18th of October, and we're talking about stuff prior to that.
Yes, that's correct. Yes, CEO Solomon.
And just further to that, through you, Mayor, you will recall, councillors, that we always go through any amendments and any changes to that policy.
Thank you. Okay, if there's no further questions or clarification regarding the notice of motion, is there a mover for the notice of motion? Councillor Hourigan, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'd like to move that. I'd like to move the motion that is listed on page 109 of the agenda tonight, please.
Thank you, Councillor Hourigan. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Andrews. Thank you, Councillor Andrews. And you would like to, you'd like to foreshadow an amendment?
Oh, I'd like to move an amendment and have it accepted by the mover now that there's a mover for this motion, if they'd so choose to.
And the seconder would need to accept it as well.
If that's your ruling. What I'd like to suggest is an amendment that takes the reimbursed travel costs from the 1st to the 7th of 22, so this financial year, to the 4th to the 5th of 23. Well, obviously the total amount requested will be adjusted. I haven't done the calculation, but it will be slightly less than the $2,447.26 that's listed there.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. And Councillor Hourigan, would you accept the amendment?
Mayor Binks, I really, if I can please get it, I need a clear answer, I suppose, from the officers about whether a notice of motion created by a councillor can in fact be amended. If I could please sort that advice.
Certainly.
Thank you.
We're going through our governance rules now.
Mayor Binks, I do believe our governance rules do say that we can
suspend standing orders.
We can, or an adjournment. I just think, according to our governance rules, the mover can't do that. But if another councillor would like to, I'd invite them, just for 10 minutes.
I'll move for an adjournment for 10 minutes.
Yes.
Do we need?
Okay.
Do we need 5 minutes? Okay. I'll move an adjournment for 5 minutes while we get clarification about that.
Okay. If you do adjourn, I will remind you that you are not to interact with Councillor Dickinson. We do have... Can I... Sorry, I've got lots of things happening here. So we have a mover and a seconder. Can I have a show of hands for all those in favour of adjournment? Okay, we will have an adjournment for 5 minutes, was it? And I'll see you back in. And please leave your devices and do not interact with council.
Our rules are silent. There they are. They're not.
Okay, councillors, thank you for coming back so promptly after your 5 minutes. And we have the advice that you were seeking, Councillor Hourigan. We have conferred with our governance rules. This is an unusual circumstance to be in, so thank you for your patience. CEO Salomon, would you like to advise the council?
And thank you, and through you, Mayor, and I likewise would like to say thank you for your patience. Our governance rules around notices of motion are silent on that aspect, and given that they do not indicate that a motion as printed can be amended, then I believe that we need to just leave the motion as is.
Thank you. So the motion we have before us is as is printed in the council agenda, and it has been moved by Councillor Hourigan and seconded by Councillor Andrews. There is no amendment to the motion as has been explained, as it's not a provision in our governance rules. So Councillor Hourigan, would you like to speak to the motion?
Ask a question about that. If this notice of motion then fails to pass, can this notice of motion be resubmitted in an altered form, or does this failure to pass this motion mean that it can't be presented again?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. That's a challenging question to answer. That's really up to the author of the notice of motion, but I think he would need to take that under consideration if this notice of motion has been not successful, then whether he would consider rewriting it under a different form. But I would imagine that it would be highly unusual practice.
Okay, third time lucky. Councillor Hourigan, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to speak to the motion. The motion that's been tabled before us relates directly to the Strathbogie Shire's council expense policy, which we adopted back in October of 2022. As per the motion stating, which I think is really important in mentioning tonight, that the reimbursement claims must be lodged no later than 6 weeks from the expense was incurred. However, expenses claimed out of this time will not be reimbursed unless it's authorised by the Chief Executive Officer and the Director of People and Governance, and late claims occurring on a regular basis will not be approved. I think it's important that we put that in context, that the question asked tonight to the CEO and the answer that was responded was this is the first late claim that has been submitted by Councillor Dickinson. And I think it's important that we always refer back to our policy. And as our policy does not mention the length of time within that policy, I don't think that any of us around the table really can comment otherwise. Thank you.
I'm just waiting for the doors to close as a member of the gallery has left the room. Thank you, Councillor Hourigan. Councillor Andrews, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. Look, I don't know that we're questioning Councillor Dickinson's integrity in this matter. What we are questioning is his tardy accounting abilities, and he is well late, has been noted here. And I don't know if it's unacceptably so, perhaps, but whether we punish him for that, I don't know. That perhaps we've all learned a good lesson from this, and need to keep our affairs in order and up to date. So I'd ask you to consider that, and yes, I support the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Andrews. Would any councillor like to speak against the motion? Councillor Haysbrook?
I don't think it's a matter of punishing anyone. It's just a matter of good governance.
Councillor Haysbrook, can you please pause? We've got a gallery member returning. We just need to make sure the doors are shut before you do so. Thank you, Councillor Haysbrook. You may continue.
I'm sorry, Councillor Dickinson, but I'm not convinced that this is a good idea. We as a council are being closely monitored by the Minister and by ratepayers, given that we now have been appointed a municipal monitor. And I'm concerned that approving such expenses is the antithesis of good governance. Based on the information I have, I cannot tell if these are legitimate expenses. I need more information. If council approves this, we could be setting a precedent for bad governance. And it could bring old claims out of the woodwork. It also spans over 2 financial years, which has been raised, and that makes it impossible to budget for. What's the point of having an expenses policy if we have notices of motion like this? I'm more than happy for Councillor Dickinson to claim within the appropriate time frame. I think the policy is a great policy. We're lucky to have it. I often claim childcare expenses that occur on a Tuesday when I have council commitments, but I'm afraid I can't support this notice of motion tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Haysbrook. Would any councillor like to speak for the motion? Councillor Murray.
Yeah, I raised the issue about the dates there, and I have some slight qualm about the dates, but it's not. I don't think it's significant enough for me to deny the application or the notice of motion that's made by Councillor Dickinson. I mean, I'd make the point that I've read through his list of claims. They seem, all of them seem legitimate to me. We know that he lives a fair way away from council chambers, and most of those are travel to and from here. I believe that he's entitled to make those claims, and I believe that the policy supports him in making that claim. It's not a regular thing. It says late claims will not be accepted, on a regular basis. He's not. I mean, he hasn't done this before. I think it fits with the policy. I do think it's bad practice to continue to do this, and we shouldn't allow this to happen on a regular basis. I believe that policy should be followed, and we should approve this particular claim.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Would any councillor like to speak against the motion? Councillor Rayburn.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. It's just, to me, I remember Councillor Dickinson used to always fill in every month these reports when I was mayor and prior after being mayor. Because he used to tell me, I'll put my monthly report in, and I'm absolutely flabbergasted it's taken it, since the 8th of June 22 to now to put in his request. We're always, to me, we have the opportunity to do our 6-weekly report, or actually it should be done monthly when you get your allowance from the council. It should be your report. I always thought went in when you put in for your allowance. But one thing we always got to remember, what we as councillors do spend as being councillors and to run our position as councillor is also tax deductible. So we can claim a lot of this stuff on our tax returns when we're claiming our expenses against our annual money we receive. So, and that's the reason why I believe if it was 2 or 3 months, I'd have no issues, but it's because it's over a 2-year period, I have an issue with that. And that's just the reason being, it's against basically what I believe the policy is about, and it's about good governance to show that we, in front of Vargo and all the others, that we are looking after our policies.
Thank you, Councillor Rayburn. Councillor Hourigan, as the mover of the motion, would you like to exercise your right of reply?
Yes, please, Mayor. I just want to clarify that it's not over 2 years. It's been less than 12 months from the first claim. You may be talking about a financial year, possibly, but I still want to put it in perspective that it is less than 12 months. I don't think that we should be making assumptions that Councillor Dickinson puts in tax returns. I don't know if anyone knows his personal circumstances. I don't know if we should really be going down about what personally Dickinson claims or may not claim, or if he even has a tax return, he could be retired for all we know. So I don't think that that's really should be brought up in a public setting about his private. Good governance should relate back to a policy. And the policy clearly states to me that expense claims out of this time will not be reimbursed unless authorised officers say will be, and all late claims occurring on a regular basis. I mean, I'd like to reiterate again, this is not on a regular basis. This is the first time. It's not in our remit to determine whether Councillor Dickinson's claims are legitimate or not through this notice of motion. We've spoken about this, and if they're not legitimate, then he will be investigated through the appropriate channels at an appropriate time to do that. We're here to reimburse him on his costs and to acknowledge that it's late. But I think what we need to do is we need to update our policy, and this is a great learning curve for us to update our policy. And if we wish to say that claims certainly won't be approved out of 6 weeks, then that's the language we need to use, and we always need to fall back onto that policy. So I really can't see how we can vote against it if it's not in the policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Horrigan. Councillors, I'll now put the motion to a vote. Can I see a show of hands for all those in favour of the motion and against? Councillors, and I don't have the the rule in front of me, but let me just get it up. So as the vote is tied, in accordance with sub-rule 70 of the governance rule, I will use my casting vote to vote against the motion and declare that the motion is lost. We can now invite...
Can you call a division on that, on a notice of motion, please, Mayor?
Yes, you absolutely can. Yeah. So can I see a show of hands, all those in favour? Councillor Murray, Councillor Horrigan, Councillor Andrews, and against Councillor Haysbrook, Councillor Rayburn, Councillor Binks, plus casting vote. Thank you, councillors. We can now invite Councillor Dickinson back into the chamber. And Councillor Dickinson has returned to the chamber at 9:03 p.m. CEO Salomon, considering we dealt with urgent business at the start of the meeting, can I please ask, are there any notices of rescission or confidential business to conduct in this evening's meeting?
Thank you. And through you, Mayor, there are no notices of rescission or confidential business for consideration at this evening's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO Salomon. Council will be holding an extraordinary council meeting on Tuesday, the 23rd of May 2023 at the Aroa Community Conference Centre, commencing at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. The next monthly meeting of the Strathbogie Shire Council is scheduled to be held on Tuesday, the 20th of June 2023 at the Aroa Community Conference Centre, commencing at 6 p.m. There being no further business, I declare that the meeting is closed at 9:04 p.m. Thank you, gallery, councillors, and everyone.